Ladies and gentlemen, for the most famous words in all of motorsports, please welcome Mary Holman George and Jim Neighbors.
Gentlemen,
Start your engines. Yeah.
Is about to embark on the most challenging day of his racing career. 1,100 miles is the goal, and right now he is about to begin his very first Indianapolis 500. Before he put on the helmet and climbed in the car, I spoke to him. I said, "How are your nerves?" He smiled and said, "I'm feeling it, but I feel good. I've never felt more prepared." Jamie?
Well, Kurt Busch is one of 7 rookies in today's field, but I'm joined by a man who's no stranger to Indianapolis. Roger Penske, you've been coming here since 1969. What is this moment like?
Well, I guess I came here in 1951 with my dad as a young kid, and I can see all these young people here today. It's a special time in my life, and this race is going to be unbelievable. I wish the best to Kurt, what he's trying to do, the double, and we got 3 great cars today, and we want a safe race.
All those years of being a team owner here, 15 wins. He's hoping today is number 16. Lindsay?
Thank you, Jamie. The engines are roaring, the crowd is cheering, and our crew in the booth is standing by to call this race. We send it now to Eddie Cheever, Scott Goodyear, and the newest member of our team, Alan Bestwick. Alan?
Lindsay, thanks. Can't tell you how exciting it is to be here for the Indianapolis 500. And as we've gone through the month of May and talked to the drivers, they talk about their cars, they talk about the strategies, but they talk about the emotions of this 500-mile journey. What is today like for the drivers?
Today is the most difficult day of the year for them. From the moment they woke up this morning, they've been trying to empty their head of everything that they do not need. They're going to have to focus on the most difficult start you will have anywhere in racing.
And you know something, the thing that I always thought about here is coming here into turn 1 was always a time of tension for drivers, simply from the fact you're rushing down to turn 1 with 32 of your closest friends at over 200 miles an hour. So it's definitely a hard time for drivers. But the one thing that is for sure is that you come here as a driver, and if you win, you'll leave as a legend.
Looking at the 19-year-old rookie Sage Karam, a little slow getting away from the grid, but he is underway and rejoining the field for his first Indianapolis 500-mile race. The starting lineup again reviewed across the top of the screen, and at the head of the field, Mario Andretti, the 1965 winner in the Honda Andretti TV 2-seater. Enter for your chance to win a ride with Mario in that car at shophonda.com. That's Gracie Gold, national figure skating champion and Olympic medalist, with Mario Andretti here at Indianapolis today. And let's stay on the Andretti theme with Dr. Jerry Punch.
You know, Mario Andretti is the only member of his famous family ever to win the Indianapolis 500, and that was way back in 1969. Son Michael came close on several occasions. Grandson Marco came really close as a rookie in 2006. Now, I spoke with Marco just moments before climbing in the car, and if courage and confidence make a difference, this just might be the day the Andretti curse finally ends at Indy. Here's Rick DeBrule.
Well, few events have the diversity that the Indy 500 has. For example, you've got Jacques Villeneuve out there, 43 years old. He won the Indy 500 back in 1995. 2 years later, the Canadian went on to win the Formula One World Championship. But pitted right next to him is the youngest driver in the race, 19-year-old Sage Karam. The kid from Pennsylvania was just 2 months old when Villeneuve won that Indy 500. Those two drivers today will bridge the generations, connecting Indy's past with its future. Alan?
Drivers running 70 miles an hour on this first parade lap behind the Chevrolet Camaro Z28, the 2014 Indianapolis 500 pace car. Like to learn more about it? Chevy.com/Camaro is where you can find out. Dario Franchitti, heard from him a little while ago. The 3-time winner has received the honor of driving the pace car here today. He has threatened not to turn off and to race him down into turn 1. We'll see. Some great high-definition onboard views for you today among the field of 33. Jacques Villeneuve, the 1995 winner, has our Lucas Oil camera. And the 2000 winner, Juan Pablo Montoya, is carrying our Verizon on board. Tony Kanaan carrying our Chevy on board. He's last year's champion, starting 16th.
And Tony Kanaan's teammate Ryan Briscoe, a previous pole sitter here at the Indianapolis 500, will roll off 30th position today in his NTT Data Ganassi Chevrolet. His teammate Charlie Kimball is also carrying a camera today, and that will be for the Novo Nordisk special. And then we also have Graham Rahal, son of 1986 Indy 500 winner Bobby Rahal. He'll have a National Guard camera on his Honda-powered machine. Graham starts in his 7th 500.
The most accomplished American driver in the field, Ryan Hunter-Reay, will have the AutoNation onboard camera. Marco's Honda onboard camera. Better get ready for an exciting ride. There's never a moment or a boring moment with him. And Simon Pagenaud with the Firestone on board will be trying to replicate his Indy GP fresh win.
Elio Castroneves trying to win a 4th 500 from the 4th starting position, has our Pennzoil on board. The current series championship leader Will Power driving for Penske has our Verizon on board from the outside of the front row. And the Sunoco on board being carried by the pole sitter Ed Carpenter. He will lead this field to the green flag momentarily, hoping to be the 21st driver to win this race from the _1 starting spot. Looking for Spanish commentary today? You can find it by activating your SAP button, presented from here in Indianapolis by ESPN Deportes. So many intriguing stories in this field of 33, but one row on the grid particularly worth watching is row number 4.
Well, the interesting thing about that is 2 IndyCar drivers and a NASCAR driver. I'm sure those guys have gone over to Kurt Busch and said, hey, let's get through turn 1 here and just get through a lap before we settle into a pace. So Kurt Busch probably had some great advice from the other 2 Indy 500 champions.
So the Speedway 2.5 miles around for each lap. So to make up the 500-mile distance, they'll run 200 circuits today with that pit window. The crews will have to service the car a minimum of 6 times during the day. And maybe the most important line is the bottom one. There's always an early crash or early trouble here. You don't want your 500-mile victory dreams ended after 5.
That is absolutely true. And the first hurdle that they have to get through is that first corner. And it is always a difficult corner because these cars are designed to work at 220 miles an hour. And Scott, we both know you're not even going 180 by the time you get to there. And everybody's always vying to gain that extra foot or two, and it comes at a great price.
So there is Mark Cuban, a shark investor from ABC Shark Tank and the owner of the NBA champion of a couple of years ago, Dallas Mavericks. He will have the green flag in his hand a moment from now. He's taking in all the radio instructions he's being given. You want to get it right. And what's the one instruction you give the guy waving the flag? Don't drop it.
He looks very focused. He probably looks more focused than the drivers do right now.
Well, you know, when you talk about drivers, I always remember this because you're here all month. It's dark and gray. Today, warmth, color, movement, fans. And boy, we better get our foot on the gas down to turn 1.
3 abreast coming to the start. Field tense.
Everybody's extremely tense. Everybody knows that they have to get through it without having a problem, but inevitably somebody will see an opportunity and start racing way too early. But having these 3 cars abreast is not easy.
Everyone wants to win. Only one will. Coming down for the start of the 98th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Trouble toward the back. Looked like James Davison had to make an avoiding move in that aquamarine car. And also Ryan Briscoe perhaps showing some smoke from behind that red, white, and blue 8 machine.
Oh, I think that smoke was from the rubbing wheels. Anytime you do that in open wheel cars, usually something worse happens. A lot of luck for those guys today.
James Hinchcliffe leads lap 1.
Not a good start for Ed Carpenter. He got gobbled up on the outside from Hinchcliffe and then had to play defense.
You know, it's funny, we always talk about getting through turn one like we just did a minute ago, Eddie. You know, because you've been on the front row, I've been on the front row. My goal was to lead to the first turn, the first lap. We say conserve, wait for 500 miles to win this race, but there's a lot of pride at stake.
I think Ed is lining Hinchcliffe up, and he'll get him at the end of the straightaway turning into turn one. And this will be, other than the start, the first real pass of the day.
He's looking, will he get the draft and make that dive on the inside going through? We'll wait and see. Not enough.
So Hinchcliffe, Carpenter, Power, Castroneves up to fourth, just passing Marco Andretti on that second lap of the race.
So at this point of the race, nobody really has a rhythm yet. They're still trying to find out what sort of a car they have.
Saw the smoke off the second turn. Ryan Briscoe, pole winner of a couple of years ago, is on the pit lane.
Your left rear is down, you're going to lock up the right front. Left rear looks good, guys.
So Briscoe goes a lap down early in the race.
Oh.
Wow.
Briscoe very lucky, off of the wall.
They were both very lucky.
Here he is, he's in dirty air, he's up a little too high. They call that in the gray area. He's going to run out of track right now. He does, a little touch to Villeneuve's car, and he has to respawn, go over to the left, and Davidson gets through. Look how sideways he is, and the lock up from Davidson's brakes right now. So not something you expect on lap one.
That smoke we saw was both cars braking, not both cars rubbing of their tires, which was a much better alternative.
But we stay under green, and Briscoe back in the race, though one lap down in 33rd position. This race a year ago had 68 lead changes. Weather conditions today a good bit warmer than they were for this race a year ago. When I talked to drivers and team managers in the paddock earlier this week, they weren't sure we were going to see that same kind of race because they thought the handling in the warmer weather might get a little edgier.
The drivers don't mind driving when it's hot. They don't like having tested when it's cold and then racing in the heat because they're not quite sure how their cars will react.
You can see from the Honda telemetry right now, we're getting about 224, 25 miles an hour straight line speed. We were seeing up towards 229, 230. Everybody's trying to get into a pace right now. Watch the throttle. Anytime the guys has to take their foot off the throttle means their car's not working as well as they'd like it to. Now watch the speed here. It's a little faster down at turn 3 today because of the wind. Down one shift. You heard him go down from probably 5th to 6th gear. So for Helio Castroneves, very smartly going into lines, finished just sitting in 4th and conserving fuel.
So the lead group, Hinchcliffe, Carpenter, Power, Castroneves, Marco Andretti, Scott Dixon running in 9th position. The winner from 2008, and on a lot of folks' minds, including yours and mine, Eddie, as a likely contender for the win today.
Scott is a method driver with an enormous amount of talent. From the first lap in the race, he has a strategy that he's worked out with his engineers, and I have to assume at this point he's trying to go as fast as he can, feel his car, but he has this magic ability to save fuel. Every little bit of fuel that you save allows you to gain positions on track because you won't be spending that much time in the pits, and he does it so purposefully and with such a professional attitude that he doesn't get caught up in the moment.
Early check-in on Kurt Busch in his bid in his first Indianapolis 500. He took the green flag in 12th position. Kurt running in 15th now. This not the car that he intended to run in the race. He had that wicked crash here in practice earlier on Monday. The team deciding to take Marco Andretti's backup car, swap the coloring, and put Kurt Busch in that machine for this race. He was able to get a little bit of practice here on Carb Day Friday.
And Alan, it's not very often you get away with the type of crash that he had and walk away from it with some type of injury, so he was very lucky. But he did say that he just let his guard down just for a minute, and he found himself going into the wall.
If they were to name a Mr. Congeniality in racing, it'd be the guy who's leading. The bright personality of James Hinchcliffe also is pretty darn fast behind the wheel at the Brickyard. The second lead change of the Indianapolis 500 after James Hinchcliffe got the lead from Ed Carpenter on the start. Carpenter has gone back around Hinchcliffe and is out in front. The pole winner last year did not get the finish he was hoping for. Carpenter hoping to win from pole position this season. He leads after 13 laps. On the move in the early going, the series champion for the Verizon IndyCar Series a couple of years ago, Florida's Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Last year he was leading on that last restart and he got shuffled back to third place. I'm sure he's one of those many drivers that spent the whole winter running through that restart in his head. Perfect pass. And every time he ran it through his head, he came out with a different finish. But you can hear, Scott, that the drivers are not that much on a limit right now as they take their throttle off every time they go into the corner. That's not just because of traffic, but they're trying to gauge how their car is working. Doc?
Ryan Hunter-Reay said he has got to get out of where he started in a hurry. Starting back in 19th position, he told his crew, I've got to get up in the top 10. I know what happens back here, and I don't want to be a part of it. Now, his teammates are trying to save fuel. Hunter-Reay said, I'm not worried about saving gas until I get in the top 3. Then I'll save fuel.
That saving gas thing, it sounds weird for folks who may watch the Indianapolis 500 and don't watch auto racing regularly, but saving fuel is a critical part of how you operate at top speed. For more on the driver who might be trying to save a little fuel by giving up the lead, here's Jamie.
And that would be James Hinchcliffe, and that was exactly by design, Alan. He said, I don't want to be out here leading, and he stayed up there for 9 laps, so he tucked in behind Ed Carpenter. Now remember, James Hinchcliffe has had a heck of a month, Alan. He suffered a concussion just 2 weeks ago in the GP race here at Indy. He wasn't cleared to drive for 5 days, and that set the team back, but he managed to go out, qualified on the front row, and told me, I don't know what we have for today. Well, so far, so good, Alan.
These race cars with open tops, Hinchcliffe taking a piece of debris off the head at 170 miles an hour. And after having to sit out a few days, was medically cleared to drive, qualified on the front row, as Jamie said, and he's running second right now. Update on Kurt Busch from the pit lane. Vince?
Kurt Busch started 12th. He's lost 4 positions to 16th, but don't worry. They wanted him to just settle in and get comfortable. It's a long race, 500 miles. They weren't looking to grab spots early on. Get comfortable, get used to the speed, get used to the traffic. And his team told me before he got in the car today, they've been so impressed with him to this point. He's been like a sponge, soaking up all the information every bit he can, even attending meetings he wasn't required to attend. They believe they're going to have a good day with Kurt Busch in the car today. We're just 17 laps in, but hardly any communication from him on the radio, and that's normally a good sign, Alan.
So Kurt Busch holding steady while Juan Pablo Montoya has given up a couple of positions in the opening few laps of the race. The 2000 winner of the 500 back in IndyCar racing, started 10th. He's running back in 12th now. In fact, just picked up one of the positions he lost and gained it back. So now Montoya running in the 11th position, Rick.
Well, Montoya got on the radio just a few minutes ago and told the crew the car is understeering just a bit. But even going into this race, he said, to be honest with you, the first half of this race really is just about learning, relearning this IndyCar experience so he can set himself up for those last 30 laps.
And that understeer that they're talking about, Alan, is that from the front maybe doesn't turn as well as he wants it to. Now, a driver in today's cars does have some cockpit aids that he can actually make some adjustments in the car. There is a weight jacker. There's a button on the steering wheel. He can change the weight from one side of the car to the other side in the front, make it turn a little bit better. And also the roll bars, those things that we have on our road cars that are just underneath there that we don't really know about. Well, drivers can change those as they're out there on the racetrack, changing the handling of the car.
Driver on the move in the early going, J.R. Hildebrand, the California native, now living in Colorado. Started the race in 9th position, and Doc, he's moved up to 5th.
Indeed, he is on the move, Alan. And back on Carb Day, when the track temperature was 109 degrees, he came in and did something very daring. They changed the rear shocks or dampers. They made a major rear wing adjustment. They have put all their money in hoping that this track would be 110 degrees or hotter on race day. Well, I have just checked with the Firestone engineers, and they say the track right now is 112 degrees on the front straight, but 117 and a half in the corners. Maybe that's why Hildebrand is on the move.
At this point of the race, the drivers now know what sort of a car they have under them. hopefully they're in a range where they can make small improvements and make the car faster as the day goes on. But as Doc said, the racetrack is going to get hotter and hotter, and you have to be able to get there with a setup that works. You have to be able to manipulate a lot of different things.
Well, the teams will get their first chance to lay their hands on the car since the green flag waved when the first round of pit stops begins shortly. We've just completed 50 miles at the Indianapolis 500. Look at the people, look at the sunshine. How spectacular. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the day of the 500-mile race. And hometowner Ed Carpenter from Indiana, Butler University graduate, is out front. He has led 16 of the 25 laps that have been completed so far. Average speed is over 217 miles an hour.
And looking at the telemetry, we can see that he's going as fast as he can because the throttle is remaining 100% the whole way around the track. But as Scott pointed out earlier, he probably has his fuel trim all the way down to saving fuel. So they have a variety of different adjustments they can make. But he is going as fast as he can right now.
Thank Honda for helping bring you the onboard telemetry today here at the Brickyard.
And I'm also noticing about 217, 218 going into 1. A little faster top speed going into 3 because they have a headwind into 1, a tailwind into 3. Drivers will have to look at those windsocks on the racetrack when they go into the turns to adjust their lines through the turns. All that as you're entering into the turns at about 215, 20, or 25 miles an hour, Eddie. It was always something we're very busy. And as we're looking right now, that windsock is up on top of that grandstand, so the driver takes his view off the racetrack for a minute and looks up on top of the stand.
It's pretty mind-boggling for those of us that haven't driven a race car, that you're doing 220 miles an hour into the corner and looking at a windsock. Tony Kanaan, last year's winner, you see moving up some since the start. Look at those hands on the wheel.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just going to point out. We were on board with Ed Carpenter, smooth on the steering wheel. His car was working well. He saw Tony reach up with his right hand and tear something off the front of his visor. That's called a visor strip because all the dirt that comes onto your helmet can make it hard to see. There's a little thin layer of plastic there. It tears it off. He'll have 10 of those on for today's event.
It is one of the greatest feelings in the world. It's like being on a long road trip and stopping at the gasoline station and they clean the windshield wiper for you. It's a whole new view on life, and it is a great uplifter.
Never looked at it that way.
Now right behind Kanaan, the driver who's gained the most positions in the opening 27 laps of this race, Californian Townsend Bell, Rick.
And Townsend Bell has a little bit of a secret weapon. He's driving for the same team that Tony Kanaan drove for last year. And while that is not the same car that won the Indy 500, they are using the exact same setup that Kanaan used last year. Used it coming off the truck. It worked perfectly. As a result, they pretty much kept to it, and they expected to keep it that way for the rest of the race. He's been able to move from 25th all the way up to 12th.
That little attempted pass we cut off to there with Ryan Hunter-Reay on Joseph Newgarden had my two former driving partners up here in the booth going,
don't think a lot of that. The outside car that's being passed holding its line all the way up there that early on in the race.
Well, there's a difference now. We're a lot older sitting up here. He's a lot younger sitting in there. That's the difference.
Yeah. But Townsend Bell definitely is on a tear, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's right up the gearbox.
Here's the race leader on the pit lane after 28 laps. Complete, working the 29th, and headed all the way down to Jamie.
And Ed Carpenter told me they were really focused on making sure their car was the fastest in the race. They learned their lesson last year, and they wanted to focus on having a good handling race car. Ed's saying the car is great, whether he was in traffic or leading the race. So far, so good for the 20. You'll see him change 4 tires here. They'll fill him up with Sunoco fuel, and the great thing for him, he's in the #1 pit box, so he has a clear out right ahead. Perfect pit stop for the 20 of Ed Carpenter.
And a lap after Carpenter, James Hinchcliffe, who took over the lead when Carpenter pits, bails out, comes to the pit lane. These drivers have to slow down from 200 miles an hour exiting turn 4 to 60 miles an hour when they hit the pit entry. They get some help electronically in maintaining that speed, but boy, they've got to be on their toes when it's time to make a pit stop. Jamie?
And James Hinchcliffe told me exactly that before he got in the car. He's really banking on his pit crew today to help him maintain that track position up front. No changes expected here. You see that awesome overhead shot right there, looking down into the box as they fill him up there with fuel so far. So good, 8.6 seconds to change 4 tires and fill them up.
There is such a great amount of relief from the teams, Alan, when the drivers have done that first pit stop and don't have any problems. A bad first pit stop will set a really bad tone for the rest of the race.
You see a whole flock on the pit lane. including Will Power now, who just gave up the lead to make his pit stop here.
And Will Power not operating at 100%, got a stomach virus earlier in the week, missed media day, didn't go to New York to promote anything. He's been taking care of himself, taking on fluids. He said he's taking it lap by lap to see how they can pull this off. Looking for a good finish, perhaps a win for the 12, and his teammate, Elio Castroneves, another good stop. They're out and clean.
Scott Dixon coming out, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Justin Wilson, Jack Hawksworth, Charlie Kimball. In that group, Tony Kanaan took over the lead when Power pitted. Now Kanaan woeing down to that 60 miles an hour. The silver paint color, Target celebrating 25 years as a partner with Chip Ganassi's team.
You were talking about slowing down from 220 to 50 miles an hour. They cannot take their time doing that, so they try to get all that deceleration done in probably 50 yards at the entrance of the pits.
Saw a quick change in the front wing of Tony's car, telling me that he probably had just a little bit of understeer. Car didn't turn as well as he wanted to through the traffic, probably, so they made an adjustment for him during his pit stop.
And one of the rookies making his first pit stop in a 500, Vince.
Well, that was Mikhail Aloshin who came in. You saw a little wiggle there as he's trying to get the tires warmed up upon exit. No major changes for this car. His first ever oval race in any kind of race car at all. Can you imagine that being the Indianapolis 500? That's the challenge Aloshin is facing so far here in this day today at Indianapolis.
From what I know, there aren't many ovals in Moscow.
So the cycle of pit stops has run through, and there you see the front four. Hinchcliffe, Carpenter, Power, and Castroneves. Then a couple of seconds of racetrack back to J.R. Hildebrand and Marco Andretti, who run in 5th and 6th.
Now this first group of 4 cars, Scott, has an opportunity. If they get together, they can break away from the rest of the field behind them, but they have to work together.
The first round of pit stops is done. Team Penske working on Power and Castroneves. We're back to the Brickyard after this from your ABC station. New leader at the 98th Indianapolis 500-mile race. After the pit stops, Will Power, driving for Roger Penske, was in 3rd position. He passed 2nd place Ed Carpenter, and then 1st place James Hinchcliffe. And Power, the Verizon IndyCar Series championship leader starting today, is now out in front here at Indy.
He's a new man this year after winning his last race in Fontana.
A look at the pass for the lead.
After those pit stops, he came out. He seemed to have a very good car underneath him. He turned around, got past Ed Carpenter. A nice timing coming out of turn 2. A great draft. Gets the pass completed before he gets into turn 3, which is exactly what you want to do. You try not to go into a turn beside the guy, as what we call it, make it confrontational, because it's only a one-line racetrack here at Indianapolis.
So this is the first time he's had any laps in clean air. So what he's doing, he's putting in his database and trying to tell his engineers what his car will be like should he be leading on those last restarts. Everything you see now, the drivers are trying to accumulate information to work towards those last 20 laps, and he looks pretty strong when he's in front.
And we should add that all that information the driver sees on his electronic dash is being back to the pit lane by real-time telemetry. So all that information off the car goes to the engineers. They get to assess it. They get to see what type of car the driver now has, as we see Townsend Bell do a great pass.
Getting around Simon Pagenaud for a spot. That's the 13th, make that 12th position that Bell just picked up.
Bell does a really good job for somebody that just comes and races here once a year. He's always in the mix of things.
Most of the rookies in the field are kind of clustered together on the racetrack, including one of the youngest drivers here who had a little hiccup getting off the grid, but now is charging forward. Rick?
And you have to be so impressed with what this kid is doing right now. 19 years old, not just a rookie in his first IndyCar oval race, but the youngest driver in this race. The team has been coaching him through, telling him what to do. He was talking about he was having a little bit of understeer. The car was having a few issues, but he started 31st and is now racing in 19th and is keeping his nose clean, and that's what really matters.
That was great, Rick, but right in the middle of all that, he just passed a car on the outside of 1.
And that was called take that, because Mikhail Aloshin tried to block him down the main straight, took him all the way down to the wall, and he said, okay, I'll go around the outside, and that's exactly what he did.
And it's not a great place to live this early on in the race, up high in 1. This kid is on a march to the front of the row, the front of the line. And Power continues to lead.
New second place runner Ed Carpenter around James Hinchcliffe. So Carpenter to the number 2 spot. And trying to creep in and join that front 4 that had a little bit of a gap on the rest of the field after the pit stops is J.R. Hildebrand, who is closed in now and make that a 5-car breakaway. Graham Rahal on the pit lane. That doesn't look good, Rick.
Yeah, Graham Rahal has been having some problems, concerned about the back end of the car. It wasn't going well. And then in their last pit stop, they couldn't get the jack to work properly. As a result, it was a very slow pit stop. Bringing him in again, trying to work out some of the problems. He's had a pretty tough month overall. Hasn't been able to get the speed, and really hasn't been able to figure out why they haven't been able to get the speed. And it doesn't look like today's going to go any better for them.
Did you feel it tighten up or anything like that? I did. That's all.
Now, generally, when they talk about tightening up, they're talking about what's under the engine cover.
It could be that, or it could also be maybe a problem in the gearbox or something.
There's that jack falling off.
Jack went up and down, and, you know, Graham has had a struggling week. I got an opportunity to play in the Graham Rahal Foundation Golf Tournament this week, and he really shared with me, he just said, I'm not sure why we don't have the speed or the grip, but it's actually very, very tough to be able to be out there in the racetrack.
J.R. Hildebrand looking for 3rd place and has got it in turn 1.
Very nicely done.
You know, we heard in the garage all this last couple of weeks, you know, we don't want to lead too much. We don't want to be racy too early because we want to save fuel. We want to get great fuel mileage for this race. But, Eddie, you know, from putting your helmet on, getting inside the cockpit, we just want to get out there and get racy and get to the front.
That is true, but you also have somebody in the pits that's worked out the strategy, and you have to adhere to it. And at the same time, go quick, and it's very difficult. Every time that you do a stint and you use maybe 1 gallon less, that's 1 gallon less they have to put in your car. And how much is that? How much is 2 seconds in a straightaway? 150 yards?
A couple of hundred. Helio Castroneva is fending off Marco Andretti for a spot. Want to go back and tidy up the Graham Rahal story for just a minute and see if Rick has any more information on that. Rick?
Yeah, he came on the radio and said the engine just shut off. That's the problem. He's been having the suspension problems I talked about earlier in terms of the setup, but this is a much bigger problem. He said for whatever reason, the engine shut off, no warning. Now he's in pit lane, and they're trying to sort out the problem.
Yeah, it's tough luck for the son of the 1986 winner. Now, just on the racetrack a minute ago, Helio Castroneves was given a warning by race control. Castroneves in that yellow car, warned for blocking.
Oh. Yes, that is not proactive, Scott. What they told the drivers that you can make the first move on either side of the racetrack, but you cannot react to what's happening behind you.
Marco behind him, starting to look. He makes a move.
Inside.
All of a sudden,
Inside.
over. A lot of dirty air going on to the nose of Marco Andretti's car. You saw how quickly he fell back because the air that comes off the car in front really disturbs the handling of your car.
So how many warnings do you get before they call you in and wrap your knuckles?
Oh, you've sat in drivers' meetings like I have. They don't give you that information. Otherwise, if it was 7, you'd do 6, wouldn't you? Or 7.
Well, here comes Hinchcliffe.
Castroneves looking to get around Hinchcliffe for 4th spot.
And Marco is all over him, isn't he?
Yep. Now, interesting that with all the super teams, right? Andretti Autosport, as we ride with Marco, got Team Penske leading, Chip Ganassi racing teams with so many wins here at Indianapolis in recent years. A team with cars in 2 of the top 3 spots is one of the smaller teams in IndyCar racing. Ed Carpenter normally runs a single car effort that he shares. Ed drives the ovals. Mike Conway, expert road course racer, already a winner this season, drives in the road course races. But now with an effort for J.R. Hildebrand here at Indy, expanding to a 2-car effort, their 2 cars are in the top 3 spots, Jamie. That's not bad.
Not bad, and it's gone so smoothly. Ed told me this has been the best he's felt at Indy because he has a teammate. He said it has gone off without a hitch. He's kept his eye on J.R. Hildebrand since J.R. got fired from Panther Racing last year. He said he saw something in this kid, and he said their setups have been similar, and it has helped both drivers be better, and it's showing here. For more on that side, let's go to Doc.
Yeah, right behind him is Hildebrand in the 21 car. J.R. Hildebrand said, my focus here is to prove that Ed Carpenter made the right decision to bring me here. As you watch a pass behind him, and a mix up there. Helio Castroneves making a move. But Hildebrand said, I want to prove to everybody I belong back in Indianapolis, and Carpenter brought me here for the right reason.
Now with Hildebrand behind Ed Carpenter, that's his teammate. Let's see if these two drivers can work together, because they really are, Scott, in the perfect position.
Help each other in the draft, help each other manage the fuel, help with everything. Ed Carpenter, his family ties so deep to the Speedway, his love for the place so strong, he's hoping to drink the milk today. Watch this, Townsend Bell. Tony Kanaan, yikes.
He hit Tony Kanaan's car that looks like he brushed up against the wall. Everybody's being very defensive very early on this race. Normally you'd see that sort of thing of the last 40, 50 laps.
Well, and it's all in the front stretch, Eddie, and I think that's the reason, because we have a headwind going down the front stretch. So that means you're pushing more air with your car, and the car behind you getting the draft gets another advantage because of that. So everybody's taking the advantage.
Oh, look at this, in
headwind.
between.
Side by side, my goodness.
In between 3 and 4.
Juan Pablo Montoya around Townsend Bell into 10th position, and the squeeze. Ryan Hunter-Reay in the yellow car.
Has somebody told him the race is going to be a shorter version of the 500?
The Kumasato doing a great job in A.J. Foyt's ABC machine. He didn't take his foot off the gas. He was just going to find a place to go.
Very racy, very early on.
You know, when I watch this, Eddie, you and I have talked about this before, that when we were doing it, it seemed normal. And now that we're up here and watching it, and I talked to Dario Franchitti about that, and I think he said it on the air here this morning, that he's now watching it and realized just how much on the edge we lived our lives by doing it. But when you're doing it each and every day, you don't even think about it.
I've hit things at 230 miles an hour, and it's not a pleasant experience.
Here goes Castroneves making a nice move on J.R. Hildebrand.
Into 4th place.
Marco Andretti went through Hildebrand earlier, up to 3rd. These same cars and stars will run in Detroit next weekend. You'll see both ends of the Indy Duel in Detroit here on ABC. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, Sunday, 3:30 Eastern. Really demanding on the drivers and teams. The 2-mile, 14-turn course, running 2 races in the weekend instead of 1. Should be a lot of fun.
And it's diametrically opposite of this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stop and go, and you're right in the city park.
Now watch for Marco getting a nice draft going on here past Ed Carpenter. When we were riding on board with Marco Andretti before, he's a man that's very busy in the cockpit. He was using the buttons on the steering wheel for the weight jacker, making the car handle better. He was also using the roll bar, and he seemed to be doing that on each end of the racetrack because of the difference in wind. I think that's why he's advanced his car.
Beginning to see the next round of green flag pit stops. Jack Hawksworth, very impressive young driver from England.
Marco just passed 2 cars in 1 lap.
Lead.
That was the roar of the crowd that you heard, and it put Will Power off pace there for a minute because he took away the air going through the turn, and Ed Carpenter almost got a chance to get past him. Now watch Elio. He'll take advantage of this.
But it's very late.
Just like that, how quickly you can go backwards. And a little wiggle from the Pennzoil machine in the middle of turn 1. Wow.
Looks like Castroneves has started to pick up the pace. I expect him to be attacking Power probably at the end of the next straightaway.
Well, it's interesting. Power's car was so good after the pit stop. Now it's starting to go away. Doc, you have some?
Marco Pagano in for his service. The car handling better than he'd like. Still a bit of an understeer and a wing change. 4 tires, and he was away.
All of the people in this front stretch grandstand, these massive stands that tower over the racetrack, when Marco Andretti took the lead, rose to their feet with a cheer. Family so popular, one of the biggest families in the history of motorsports, and what it would mean, what a reaction it would get if Marco Andretti could win.
The biggest advantage any driver has had since the beginning of this race. He seems to be pulling away, Scott, from the group.
And we just saw his left hand was off the steering wheel again there for a moment, reaching down, operating the roll bars, as I mentioned before. Those roll bars change the handling of the car, either the front or the rear. There his hand goes again. Now he's adjusting it, and the weight jacker, he's pushing the button. He changes the car for each end of the racetrack because the car handles differently at each end because of the wind difference. That's a brilliant driver.
Look at the throttle, full throttle. That's as fast as she goes.
Think of these steering wheels on these race cars almost like an Xbox controller. They have all kinds of different buttons that control different things, from the weight jackers Scott was talking about, to the fuel usage settings, to powering the drink bottle that services the driver, to putting it in neutral, to putting it in reverse if they have to.
Stay out. Another lap.
Good fuel mileage. Stay out one more lap.
Yeah, he's getting sucked back in by the pack. It's impossible here to run away from everybody. But I think he's made a statement that he is definitely one of the people you're going to have to beat today if you're going to win this race.
Eddie, you remember when he came here, he was leading that last lap, got passed by Sam Hornish going down the front stretch and finished second. I've talked to him many times about it. I understand what he feels because I finished second here twice, and it just grinds on you each time you come back here if you don't have the opportunity to win. And, by the way, his last name is Andretti. That puts a little bit more pressure on it.
Let's see if he comes in the pits. Into the pits.
Will Power follows him in.
But not Castroneves. Castroneves stays out. And Castroneves was in the middle of that group, Alan, the whole time. So maybe he's managed to stretch his field a little bit more. Doc?
Marco Andretti, when the race began, said the car was sliding, but Kyle Moyer added downforce with a turn of front and a turn of rear wing to give me more total downforce, which Marco really likes. There should be tires and fuel only this time, trying to get it completely full. Right side, left side tires going on. No other adjustment for Mark. Whoa, trouble with the outside rear. Cost him some extra time.
Will Power, remember the focus is on his pit crew and nailing it. 2 bad pit stops in a row at the end of last year. Will said cost him the win. So far 2 down, good to go.
But he came out ahead of Marco Andretti.
Just a small miscue by the pit crew as it was there, because they feel the pressure also in these pit stops, not only the driver.
Another wave in, led by Helio Castroneves, Jamie.
This team very focused. Roger Penske's been coming here a long time. He is the strategist. He is calling the shots for Helio Castroneves. He talks to his driver and tells him what he's thinking. If Helio agrees, they do it. Otherwise, they negotiate. 4 tires go on. A little turn of front wing. Little bit of understeer. We're hearing a lot of that, Vince.
Kurt Busch is in the pits. His car a little bit too free for his liking. Tires changed and a little turn of front wing to give him some more stability. He'd lost about 7 spots prior to that pit stop.
Juan Pablo Montoya, the leader now. Scott Dixon led a lap. He'll come down to the pit lane as Kurt Busch heads back out onto the track. That slippery exit on cold tires around that exit lane to get back up to speed. Vince?
Scott Dixon has liked his race car. They did make a slight front wing adjustment in his first stop. No changes of that nature here on this one. He's held steady toward the front. Said he wanted to run in the top 6 or 7 early on, and that's right where he's been.
Let's go back to those changes that Marco Andretti made to his car. Putting more rear wing and more front wing at this early in the race is a big change. That's not a small little adjustment.
Certainly gave him some grip. You can also change tire pressures. The crew can do some side-by-side. Man.
And right in front of the leader, Montoya. J.R. Hildebrand still trying to gather it up.
And did you see the car wiggling with him underneath there?
Hit this time.
Flying.
Rick?
Tony Kanaan brings the car in. They made a minor air pressure adjustment in the tires last time, along with a wing adjustment as well. The goal is to make those minor changes. He's been happy with the car overall. Now he's got a problem in the back. They were trying to make, looks like they're trying to make a rear wing adjustment, and it's going a little bit longer than they anticipated. There is a small device in the back where you can change the angle of the wing. When they have a problem with that, obviously it's going to take a lot longer. And you see him go in the back, they've got to restart the car as well. So now you've got a problem in the back. You see the frustration with Tony Kanaan as his hands go up in the air. This is an awful lot of time during green flag situations to be sitting in the back of this car.
It would take a miracle to get him back in the race after having lost this many seconds in the pit, Scott, to have a chance at winning. A lot of people making rear wing adjustments. It looks like the track is a lot slippier than they expected to, and Marco Andretti's group were the first ones to jump onto that by changing the rear wing. It almost sounds like Kurt Busch needs a little bit of rear wing because his car is so loose, and that's what caught him out when he had his accident in 2.
Now, Juan Pablo Montoya ran 4 laps longer than Marco Andretti did on that stint on fuel. Might be important later in the race. Castroneves in the yellow 3 is the leader. Andretti is second, right behind him after the cycle of pit stops.
And Andretti is very quick and very confident right now. He fought his way up through that whole group, and now I think he's going to either decide to save some fuel since he knows he has a good car, or attack Castroneves.
So the race for the lead at the Indianapolis 500-mile race, Castroneves and Andretti. Jessica Mace changing that front left tire for Jacques Villeneuve, at work along with all the other pit crew members here at the Brickyard.
She did a nice. She didn't bite Dixon like he was standing still.
There's the lead group. As we approach already 200 miles of the Indianapolis 500, Helio Castroneves, yellow car, the race leader, followed by Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, and now Ryan Hunter-Reay, after starting 19th all the way up to 4th position. While those drivers are having great days so far, disappointment for Graham Rahal, his car being pushed back to Gasoline Alley. The report we get is that there are electrical problems that will take the 15 out of the race. And Tony Kanaan still sitting frustrated on the pit lane, Rick.
Okay, here's what we understand happened. Apparently, he ran the car out of fuel. As a result, he coasted in. They had to refire. When they went to refire the engine, they apparently stripped out the gear. And here on pit wall, they are now working on the starter to kind of re-engage the gears to make sure that they're stronger. They've had to pull the spline out of the back of the car, so when they put the new starter back in, it will engage properly. Meanwhile, Tony Kanaan sits in his car waiting, and obviously any opportunity, any chance of a good finish here at the Indy 500 on his return visit after his victory is over.
Wow. Well, when things go wrong, they go wrong. And for Tony Kanaan, one problem leads to another problem. That leads to the ultimate problem, which is he's not going to win this year's Indianapolis 500. Listen.
Okay, here we are. Leave the ignition all the way up.
So you hear the car not running when he came to the pit lane, as Rick described, out of fuel, and that problem leading to the problem of trying to restart the car, which leads to the problem of the stripped starter gear, and on and on and on we go.
He's the Indy 500 champion for another 125 laps.
Just before his pit stop, while he was leading, Marco Andretti said this.
We had a small blister on the right rear that time. Small blister, but everything's okay. Yeah, I'm being more proactive. Okay.
Great information from Kyle Moyer, who operates the radio and tells Marco Andretti what's going on and gives him some strategy. And that's probably why we saw Marco very active with the driver's tools inside the car, not to over-push the car. And Pippa Mann's going very slow there. That's the one with the pink and white machine. So slow that she's creating a bit of a traffic jam there for all the other cars coming out of the turn. This is a point, Eddie, where you're trying to get to the left-hand side of the racetrack to get into the pit lane, but she's so far off the speed, she can't really go and take that lower lane away from people.
She should strongly consider coming to the pits and trying to find the reason why she's so far off the pace, because the drivers behind her will get increasingly frustrated, and they might make a move that they would regret.
And if she doesn't come in now at the pace that she's running, I'm sure that race control will look at her speed and tell her she needs to come in, make some changes to the car, get back out. If she can bring the car back up to speed, they'll leave her out. If not, they'll tell her to come back in.
So far in this race, we've seen Hunter-Reay fight his way all the way to the front without any fuss, very cleanly. We've seen Marco Andretti make some big changes to his car and pick up more downforce. And here goes Ed Carpenter on the outside again into turn one, and easily makes the pass.
And you know what we're seeing here is usually people come down, make a move to the inside of turn one and get the pass completed. But Eddie, we've seen today guys are coming out, they're going high, they're going low, they're going wherever they have to complete the pass.
Helio Castroneves. Can he make it for Indianapolis 500-mile wins? We know that Graham Rahal will not be the one drinking the milk today. Let's check downstairs.
It's been a very frustrating month, to say the least, for Graham Rahal. And obviously start off by asking, what put you out of the race?
Well, we got some little electrical gremlin. I didn't think the car ran right from the start. It was just slow. And sure enough, the engine keeps shutting off. And so we ran back out a couple times, trying to fix it. And we don't see it. There's nowhere in the data that shows it, but the engine just shuts off all the time, so you can't go racing like that. But, you know, it's tough. First race with the National Guard here on Memorial Day weekend. We wanted to make them proud. I mean, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to succeed today. It's just nothing we can do. I mean, our luck the last 4 years has been brutal, and I don't know what we have to do to turn it around, but this team is made up of champions, and everybody's going to try very hard, very, very hard, and you know, try to improve and make all the National Guards men and women out there proud. But today's just not our day. You know, I don't know what else to say.
Graham Rahal, and as he said, a lot of great people on this team. The problem is trying to get the results that match the quality.
Graham Rahal, the first driver out of the Indianapolis 500 for 2014. Helio Castroneves, the race leader. We're back to the Brickyard after this from your ABC station.
The 98th running of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC. Brought to you by Sunoco, the official fuel of IndyCar, and Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The viewing mounds down the back straightaway of the greatest race course in the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. After the rather difficult winter a lot of these folks had in the Midwest, enjoying a 79 degrees Sunday, a Memorial Day weekend, and the 98th running of the 500. Helio Castroneves out in front. Ed Carpenter now running second. Marco Andretti has dropped to third. Ryan Hunter-Reay has moved all the way up from 19th starting spot to fourth.
Bit of a vibration coming in now. At 10-4, we see it's one of the front tires.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him. He's just giving him as much information as he can give them, and they could tell.
You're a driver behind the wheel. You call in a vibration. That's going to concern you at these speeds with those walls looming around you. And yet the crew sees the data, and they come right back to you calmly like that and say, yeah, we see it, and it's just this. That make you feel better?
Much better.
Okay.
Do you believe them? Sometimes.
In a race like this, when you have a car that's in fourth place and you came all the way back from the back, you'll believe just about anything they'll say.
Yeah. What you're telling
10
yourself.
10 more laps, around 10 more.
10 more laps as you see him changing gears from fifth.
Start thinking about,
Still thinking about?
No, he said start
thinking about, but then he got busy in the corner.
Yeah.
Those dang corners came up again.
Yeah, you can see the fuel trim. And he's changing the weight jacket with his left hand. With that thumb, you saw him changing the fuel trim by that silver knob that he did. And that vibration could just be some stuff getting on the tire. You hope it's that versus what's going on maybe with a drive shaft or a CV joint. But as we're watching the Honda telemetry, he's on that gas a pretty long time around here, working out well.
Simon Pagenaud, which is ahead of them, is slowing this group down.
What a run. The biggest mover in this race, the 19-year-old who skipped his high school prom to race in the Indianapolis 500. Sage Karam from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, known for race fans as the hometown of the Andretti clan.
And he was, they didn't allow him to do, look at this, he's making a run inside, outside. They didn't let him run as much as he would have wanted to during the week of testing because they wanted to make sure he got up to speed progressively, but they can't stop him now in the race.
So Karam up from 31st starting spot, now challenging Juan Pablo Montoya for 7th. Right behind Sage Karam, a driver who was up in the top 3 earlier, but who's fallen back. J.R. Hildebrand from 3rd, now back to 9th. And just like that, a lap at 200 miles an hour around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
It wasn't just a lap, it was a traffic jam at 220 miles an hour.
Karam's in, Rick.
Well, the 19-year-old kid from Pennsylvania has done an incredible job. They have made no adjustments on the car so far. The goal was quite simply just to finish this race. But now that he's in the top 10, I have no doubt that his goals are moving up quite a bit.
Watch your speed here.
That's great information for rookies that are here. Watch your speed, 60 miles an hour through the pit lane. And that getting out on the track lap, Alan, is so important because with the cold tires, you can overdrive the car and throw it into the wall. We've seen many drivers do that. I'm sure spotters will be on the radio telling them just take your time.
Now beginning to get to the window where the next round of green stops for the race leaders will happen. I think we've got a little bit of a cat and mouse game going on the racetrack. Or if you prefer more elegant terms, a strategic play on fuel strategy by some of these leaders. When you're out in front, you're breaking more of the wind and using more air. The cars running back in the draft are able to run at less than 100% throttle more easily. They're using less fuel. What's the advantage? The more fuel you have to take, the longer you're sitting still on pit road. The less fuel you have to take, the less you're sitting still on a pit stop on pit road. And the guys that are able to save fuel, the track position might change on a wave of stops.
That's exactly right. And right now, all of the teams or strategies are starting to crystallize. Pretty soon, you will not be able to change your strategy unless a yellow pops up.
So, hard to believe, but we've been caution-free through this race so far at an average speed of 213 miles an hour. Since records for yellow flags started being kept here at the Speedway in 1976, the longest time to the first yellow flag had been 66 laps. We're now at lap 91. Haven't seen a yellow yet. The 95 winner's in. Jacques Villeneuve, back at the Speedway after 19 years.
And I sat with him, talked with him, and caught up with him in the garage just about a week ago. First I've asked him why. He said, racing is my oxygen. I need to do it. He won here in 1995. I had a great battle with him. We all know about the pace car incident. And I asked him, you've been away from here so long. Why? He said, just simply because I have to go racing. As I mentioned, racing is my oxygen. And the other thing that was interesting, he said to me, when I went out there, I went around 180 miles an hour and thought this place was super fast. And then 190, then 200. It took me a long time.
In this time, guys. In this time. Back in so long. Pit lane.
Helio Castroneves gives up the lead, following the rookie James Davison, who's exiting from his pit stop. Jamie?
60 mile per hour down pit lane. Helio Castroneves has led the most laps today of any other driver, and what's making him a bigger threat, his car not only is good out in clean air, his car is good back in the pack around other cars. Helio said 3 laps ago to Roger Penske, I don't need any changes. The car is that good. Leave it alone. Give me new tires. Fill it up with Sunoco fuel. They took extra time. That's a bit too long. 10.2 for Helio Castroneves.
Now we need to see when Carpenter comes in,
who did a lot of following Castroneves in this segment of the race. Mikhail Aleshin in, and there are troubles on the back end of that 7 car. Very impressive, very quick in his rookie season and in his first ever trip here to the Speedway on an oval track. First ever oval track, period. Here's Marco Andretti.
Marco Andretti in for 4 tires. They wanted to be very careful and very deliberate with him. He was actually trying to save fuel and being very cognizant about the blistered right rear tire he had before. Ryan Hunter-Reay now coming down pit road. What a run from Hunter-Reay from 19th starting spot all the way to 3rd. Although he's been very busy inside the car, he has had his hands full. They've been yelling, use your bars, use your bars. They told him a quarter turn wing. Also pull on the bodywork. Pull on the bodywork. 4 tires for Hunter-Reay. Jamie.
Ed Carpenter makes the long trek all the way down pit road, avoids the cars exiting their pit box. 4 tires and fuel for Ed Carpenter. Their main focus has been fuel today, but the balance of the car, so far so good, guys.
Interesting to note that Scott Dixon has run longer than almost everyone else on the last 2 stints of this race on fuel, Vince.
Not only is he running longer on fuel, but he really likes the handling of his race car. Also, they did make a front wing adjustment on that first stop, but no adjustments at all on the second. No front wing adjustment, no rear adjustment. We've heard a lot of teams adding downforce, but Dixon seems like his car is in the right window. And remember, this team won the pit stop competition on Friday, so they've got one of the best over-the-wall crews in the business to help him as well.
And for me, it looked like their pit stop was about a second quicker than Penske's. That
Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
And that could be a function of how much fuel they had to put in his tank.
Wrapping around that fuel story, Montoya also running longer on fuel last stint and again on this one.
Now, the more laps that we do, the more important that becomes when you get down to that last pit stop, because if you're in the pits less, your position when you get back on the track will be vastly enhanced.
Wanted to see if we were going to ride with Juan Pablo all the way onto pit lane, but not yet. So after Montoya pits, it'll become Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's the new leader, followed by Helio Castroneves. There will be the lead group. Hunter-Reay, Castroneves, that's Marco Andretti, and then Scott Dixon. They'll be your first four. Ed Carpenter will fall back to fifth after Montoya completes the cycle of stops.
So I think we're starting to see what's going to happen in the last quarter of the race.
And the leader goes by the pit lane again and still out there stretching that fuel.
Fuel coming the same.
Well, the only problem is I can save when I start losing the draft, you know?
Yeah, copy.
I didn't quite understand that. Something about the draft.
My interpretation on it was he can save when he's in the draft a lot more than he can when he's out here by himself. Which,
you speak Spanish?
And you hear him working the gearbox too, because he's going through the gearbox quite a lot, probably trying to keep the RPMs down.
No, I speak garbled race car radio.
Okay.
And sometimes garbled
Better be
television.
coming in the pits this time, because he's been out a long... There we go.
At halfway, as we complete 250 miles,
Nice and easy. Come on down.
the race leader, Juan Pablo Montoya, comes in. Ryan Hunter-Reay goes to the number one spot. We head to Doc. I check that to Rick.
That's right, the former winner, Montoya, brings the car in. Had a little understeer problem earlier in the race, but this time he's still had a little slight one, but not enough to make a change. One of the things that Montoya said he was working on was coming in hard and accelerating hard out of the pit stop. He knows every tenth of a second can be gained, and he's hoping that that practice will help out during these pit stops.
Well, the timing of this is going to be interesting, because here comes the leaders down the front stretch, and once you get off the apron going into two, we'll see where they match up.
How many laps?
So Ryan Hunter-Reay leads, but Helio Castroneves is hot on his rear wing, hoping he can kiss the bricks, sip the milk, and climb the fence for a fourth time. The lead trio and the separation back to fourth place as we've just crossed halfway in the 98th Indianapolis 500 on a spectacular 79-degree day here in Speedway, Indiana. Show you what's happened so far with our Mother's Race rundown. Went green a little after noon Eastern time. The field of 33 led to the flag by Ed Carpenter for a second straight year, and the second lap got really itchy for Ryan Briscoe.
Very lucky he didn't crash.
Briscoe continued in the race, but he is not on the lead lap. He's a lap down. Carpenter, James Hinchcliffe swapped the lead in the early going, with Carpenter going out in front. Attrition has been slight. Graham Rahal is out of the race. His car retired. Tony Kanaan spent 17 laps on the pit lane with problems on his machine. Buddy Lazier also has troubles on his car and is on the pit lane and heading back toward Gasoline Alley. Laps led today. 10 different drivers have changed the lead 17 times. Helio Castroneves has led the most laps, 26. Will Power, 22. Ed Carpenter, 21. James Hinchcliffe, 14. Juan Pablo Montoya, 8. And the real story of this one is that we've not had a yellow flag yet in the race. Through halfway, a record pace of 211.953 miles an hour through 250 miles.
And this first group of 3 cars about 5 laps ago had managed to break away from the rest of the field, and it seems that Ed Carpenter is getting ready to reel them in. What we have seen throughout the race is that the leader always has to come in earlier for fuel because he's burning through so much fuel, and it seems that the 3rd or 4th place in line is the best to save fuel. And this will make a big difference towards that last pit stop.
Other thing we've seen throughout this race here today is some really maneuvering by drivers who are a little bit anxious to maybe do a little bit of blocking. We know that Helio Castroneves is out. He had one warning from race control about blocking as he's now coming down on Hunter-Reay, and he's going to get it done.
And they work together. Do you see how they work together? Ryan Hunter-Reay did not hold his position and force him to take an outside line. And that makes a big difference. If they're going to keep pulling away, they have to work together.
So the new leader is Helio Castroneves, who lives in South Florida. We're racing here in Indianapolis. I tie that all neatly together by reminding you that the Indiana Pacers and the Miami Heat play Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, with the Heat leading the best of 7, 2-1. Coverage on ESPN tomorrow starting at 7:30 with Kia NBA Countdown, and then at 8:30. The Eastern Conference Finals, powered by Pennzoil Platinum, and it's also available for you live on Watch ESPN. Did you like that? Did you like that one?
I'm an Indiana guy. You know that.
Television magic made there?
That was very impressive. Look, people passing, going into 2.
Well, Martin Plowman in the other ABC car, and you can see little hand gesture from Marco Andretti. Trying to be a little bit frustrated. When you get all your passing done in the turns by traffic, it's somewhat difficult to find a nice place to hide on this racetrack, as we've seen drivers before try to be kind, Eddie, and move offline and find themselves going into the wall.
That's his Italian heritage coming out, that hand gesture. I've seen that before in Rome many times.
And you can say that because
and it's not a friendly one. It's I don't appreciate your driving. Please get out of the way. I have a race to win.
Track conditions change. Talked about the journey of the 500 miles. First, let's talk about the mechanical journey, if you will. As the cars run more laps and lay more rubber down on the racetrack and the temperature gets warmer, these drivers and teams have to constantly adjust their machine to optimize it for the sprint to the finish, because that's when they're going to hand out that big trophy. Back to Indianapolis after this from your ABC station. Helio Castroneves is the leader.
The 98th running of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC. Brought to you by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
A look at the race for the lead. In the Indianapolis 500, Helio Castroneves and Ryan Hunter-Reay have put a little gap on third place Marco Andretti, as we've run caution-free to this point, nearly 300 miles into this race. Penske leading, Andretti Autosport running second
and third.
Now, during that break a moment ago, this really interesting moment on the front stretch, riding with willpower.
And that's Plowman going pit lane. Creates all that congestion back there coming out of 4. There goes Scott Dixon and J.R. Hildebrand.
I think a spotter didn't tell him that somebody was behind, because that was a lot tighter than you'd want to be.
Oh, right by the wall, and the dust comes up because he's so close to the wall. A brave pass by a brave driver.
And that's something you don't want to try at home.
So as we approach that 300-mile mark, let's go up to speed. Get you updated on some of the stories in the field. We start with the race leader's pit and Jamie.
Well, Helio Castroneves enjoying the view out front right now. A lot of people curious about this bright yellow paint scheme. It's called the Yellow Submarine paint scheme, made famous by Johnny Rutherford and Rick Mears. Between the two of them, they won here 3 times with this paint scheme. And Helio, he said, maybe I should be behind, but I'm going to lead as much as I can. Meanwhile, our pole sitter, the 20 of Ed Carpenter on pit road. Now, the last stop, he had a blister on a tire. You see they just took off the rears there. An issue, perhaps we'll get more information, but they were watching those tires from Ed Carpenter.
Now, blisters on the back tires means the back of the car is starting to slide around.
So, unscheduled pit stop there for Ed Carpenter, and as Jamie said, she'll follow up on that for just a minute. Let's check back down, continue going up to speed. Doc?
Yeah, other leaders are scheduled to come in about 7 or 8 laps out of it. Let's check on Ryan Hunter-Reay. What a run for the Floridian, who finished 3rd in this race a year ago. He started 19th, said, I'm going to be very aggressive at the start. He was in the top 10 by lap 18. Now running in 2nd position, they have made 2 1/4 turn wing changes to front, pulled on the bodywork, and now Hunter-Reay settling in to save fuel. Behind him, his young teammate Marco Andretti, who is trying to become only the 2nd Andretti ever to win at Indianapolis. Marco had a blistered right rear tire early on. They added rear wing, added front wing to give overall downforce. Marco says, now I know I've got the car. as Hunter-Reay takes the lead. Ryan Hunter-Reay showing he's got the car too. Marco feeling comfortable. Both those teammates were supposed to be saving fuel. I don't know.
Running in fifth is Scott Dixon. Dixon says he knows in the first couple of stints as to whether his car is what he needs. Sure, you're going to tweak it as the race progresses, but having it in the neighborhood from the start is a huge advantage, and that's exactly what the 9 team has hit on today. They did make a front wing adjustment on the first stop, but nothing significant since, so they have tweaked on it. Dixon said, I'd want to just hang around the top 5 and then strike late in the race. He is currently 4th.
Well, Juan Pablo Montoya right behind. Remember, this is his return to IndyCar. He came back at the beginning of this season. He said really it took until the Grand Prix of Indy, which was 2 weeks ago, before he finally felt at home in the car. Now, one of his goals was to make sure that he's running in the top 5 when they reach those last 3 laps. At this point, he's right where he needs to be. Alan?
All right, Rick, so an update on the top 5. Hunter-Reay really pulled away from Castroneves, who got separated in some traffic, and also, maybe because he led so many laps, is trying to nurse the fuel a little bit to get into a window. So Ed Carpenter saw him pitting early. He's dropped all the way back to 21st place. Jamie, got a follow-up?
Well, I mentioned the tires that they were watching for. He felt like he had an issue. Well, you saw him pit there, and the tire off the right rear, you'll take a good look at it as we ride on board here. In the pits, blisters all over it. So the team just took precautionary action here. They took a pound out of the right rear for this run. So they're keeping an eye on those tires, but perhaps that air pressure adjustment will help.
All right, Jamie, thanks. And so that was the sign that Ed Carpenter...
That's a bad-looking tire. That's not something you want to see.
That was the sign they saw that said, whoa.
So we've seen 3 cars that have had problems with vibration and a rear tire. So it looks like the track is changing, and very few cars have managed to actually keep the same pace they had before, Scott.
It's all about managing the car, managing the tires. We talk about the tools that the driver has inside the cockpit. He can feel when the car starts to slide, either understeer, that means it's pushing in the front, or the back end wants to come around on you. They call that oversteer. Work with the tools inside the cockpit to make sure the car stops doing that. You need a perfect balance on the car so you're not abusing the tires on one end, either in the front or the rear.
He's flat the whole way around.
On the Honda onboard right there, you can see the 100% throttle. That means his car is working real well.
I feel like his Honda engine is working real well.
I'm just watching those speed numbers. Those are what fascinate me. 223 into the corner. Hunter-Reay leads. Helio Castroneves pits. Castroneves has led the most laps today. Right now he's on the pit lane headed for Jamie.
4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, Rick Mears, with a call from up above, the spotter for Helio Castroneves. Helio told me he wants nothing more than to go to victory lane and celebrate with a fellow 4-time winner than today. Today could be his day. He's led more laps than anybody else. The car has been flawless. And you see him jack it up again. A turn of front wing. The actually first change of the day for Helio Castroneves, and they filled him up.
Actually, they lost 2 seconds on that.
And they also did a lot of change on the rear wing because the air jack man was making an adjustment to the rear wing at the same time. They followed up a little bit of front wing adjustment. And there's Hunter-Reay around the outside. His stop will be coming up here shortly.
Back to pit road and dock.
Marco Andretti has said no changes, guys. Don't change a thing in spite of the fact that the track temperature is now well over 117 degrees. Got to be flawless, waiting on fuel, and he's away.
Joseph Newgarden is in, Carlos Huertas, Sebastian Saavedra, Justin Wilson was just on and off the pit lane as this next round of pit stops begins. There's Newgarden. Doc?
Newgarden on pit road, and the car was sputtering as he came by me. They're going to have to try to refire the car. He apparently had run completely out of fuel. The car has not fired. He's sitting there losing valuable time over the green as they have changed tires, and now they have an issue. Here comes the leader in, Ryan Hunter-Reay. They talked about making no changes this time. Thus far, no wing change. They hold him, wait on fuel. Got to get it completely full of fuel so they can maximize their fuel mileage. Hunter-Reay away.
circles around his teammate Carlos Munoz, who's on the pit lane. J.R. Hildebrand is on the pit road, and a tire that needs to be claimed by someone is apparently loose on the pit lane. It apparently came from the Munoz car. There's Kurt Busch on and off the pit lane.
How thrilling it must be for him, Eddie. You can remember coming here as a rookie, coming down here, doing your first pit stops.
Scott Dixon in, Vince.
Scott Dixon is in. They're going to make a front wing adjustment, which will give him a little bit more freedom with the weight jacker that he can control himself within the car. Starting to get to the later stages of the race, so they want to give Dixon more freedom to adjust it with inside the cockpit. Jamie?
James Hinchcliffe has not been happy today. His car has taken a big swing, understeered to loose. They made that stop. They adjusted his front wing to try to help that loose condition and get his car handling better. He worked his way up to fourth, but he had fallen out of the top 10.
Hinch had started on the front row for this race. So again, here we go. As we run through another long green flag stint and a full fuel run, Juan Pablo Montoya running deeper, more laps than anybody else.
This is going to play into his favor as the race keeps going.
And really, if the race were to stay green all the way to the finish, his last stop is going to be shorter than everybody else's. That's the advantage they're playing for right now. Juan Pablo Montoya, the race leader, being called to the pit lane. Here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he'll pit with 68 laps to go. And complete this cycle of pit stops. Montoya has been out there considerably longer than the others in the prior lead group when the cycle began. Here he comes, Rick.
Montoya last pitted on lap 99, which basically means he's gone 33 laps between pit stops, and that's not by accident. Early on, the team had said, we need to work on fuel. They're making a rear wing adjustment because they said they want just a little bit more wing in this, a little bit more downforce. Right now, it's a clean stop, and remember, he's been working hard to get out of these quickly. It's exactly what he wants to see, but you got to start doing the math. Will it take one stop or 1.5 stops to make it to the finish?
There you go. That's the whole play right now for Montoya.
And usually in races you can say you can bet on a yellow somewhere between now and the end, but since we have had a yellow-free race, maybe all bets are off on that one.
So the new leader, Ryan Hunter-Reay, in that yellow car. The two yellow cars, Hunter-Reay and Elio Castroneves, running 1 and 2. Updates, Will Power has just served a pass-through penalty for a pit speeding violation on the pit lane. Whoa.
Almost lost it under braking.
So that got Power a pass-through penalty, and then a warning issued to Carlos Munoz's team for a pit safety violation. You saw the tire, his own, that he hit there, sending that out into the traffic lane. Fortunately for them, it didn't go all the way across.
Shows you the risk that the crew members have when they're working on the cars out there in pit lane.
New penalty just called out by race control has just changed the complexion of the race. Juan Pablo Montoya, pit speeding. Pass-through penalty.
All that work on saving fuel.
Well, reset the fuel and they couldn't get the tariff off. I know. Copy. Just a drive-through, Chief. Just keep going all the way through.
This is tough because you got to make sure you get back down to the 60-mile-an-hour pit speed limit.
Sorry. I couldn't get the tariff and I pressed the freaking button afterwards just to make sure we set our fuel.
And I did see him struggling. The tear-off he's talking about is drivers like to get rid of that tear-off, that visor strip on their helmet that gets dirty as you're coming into pit lane. He just missed pushing the button soon enough to set the pit speed limiter at 60, and they caught him for speeding on the entrance to pit lane.
The only thing that will get him back in the game is the yellow at this point.
So the race leader is the series champion from a couple of years ago, a 33-year-old from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Ryan Hunter-Reay, looking to win at Indianapolis. Two drivers from the Andretti Autosport team leading at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Marco Andretti swapping the lead with Ryan Hunter-Reay before this massive crowd on a spectacular Sunday afternoon here in Indiana. Andretti seeking his first win in a race that has been strange by normal standards here because we've not seen the yellow flag yet. More times than not, we see a yellow flag in the first 15 laps of the race. Here we are at 141 laps, and we've not seen the caution for any reason.
What we're seeing right now is a possible preparation for what's going to happen at the end of this race. If two teammates are together like that, the one that's behind can defend and give the leader just enough of an advantage to make a run for it.
So at 350 miles, our Carfax race summary of the day: no cautions, 23 lead changes among 10 different drivers. The most laps led, Helio Castroneves, who's seeking his fourth win. Just 2 cars are out of the race. Buddy Lazier and Graham Rahal are retired. Tony Kanaan and Joseph Newgarden spent long times on the pit road with mechanical problems. They've both continued in the race. And there you see some of the drivers that have made big moves on the day, highlighted by the one in the middle, Ryan Hunter-Reay, who started in 19th position and has led 20 laps of this race, currently running in 2nd position. It's sort of a cruel legend here at the Speedway. The famed Hall of Fame public address announcer Tom Carnegie bellowing, and Andretti slows on the backstretch. Mario Andretti, so strong here, but only won the race one time. Michael Andretti, one of the best ever in open-wheel racing. So many wins, every place except here at Indianapolis. And Marco Andretti knows the family history here at the Speedway and wants to change it.
He's looking really strong today.
We just had so many heartaches there, so many times that we've come up close, really the 3 of us. And so, you know, this year I don't care if I lead 1 lap, it just has to be the one that counts.
Well, when Mario Andretti won the race in 1969, so many opportunities for this great racing family, but since then, those are some of the things that have happened. More on Marco Andretti from Dr. Jerry Punch.
You know, Michael Andretti told me he was 6 years old when his dad Mario went to Victory Lane. That's a long time ago, 45 years to be exact. And Michael told me before the race started, he said, if Marco wins it, said, I'm going to embarrass myself in Victory Lane. I will be crying like a baby because it will be so much emotion. But right now, Michael's car that he's engineering, Ryan Hunter-Reay, is trying to beat his son, Marco. In fact, he just told Ryan Hunter-Reay a moment ago, we're going to have to battle the 25 for the win, so we got to save fuel. Let's go to map 3 on fuel right now.
The tactical game, how to spend the least amount of time on pit road on that final stop and yet maintain a shot at running to the win.
And more important this race than any, because usually yellows give you an opportunity to bunch the field back up, have an opportunity to have the service on your car, and then when you come out behind the pace car, everybody is bunched together. But if this race goes green all the way, it's going to become more important.
Ed Carpenter in. Remember, he had to pit shy of the other leaders.
We're going to give you a half a turn of front wing
earlier, and here he is again, Jamie.
And you hear the adjustment there. Of course, we showed his right rear tire was severely blistered after that last stint, so they took 1 pound out of the right rear. They'll take a good look at it this time and see how it's looking. He said he has quite a bit of understeer. They're going to adjust for that. They'll put 4 fresh tires on here for Ed Carpenter, who is maintaining a top 5 run there. They'll see if they'll have enough to the end.
So Carpenter and everyone else going to have to make at least one more stop to make the distance. The trick is his will have to be longer. He'll need more fuel if we stay under the green flag. 54 laps to go. We're back after this from your ABC station. The yellow flag is waved for the first time in the Indianapolis 500. That's California's Charlie Kimball, who has spun. He spun after he had one almost spin and great save. Now the second time around, you see them extracting himself from the car off of turn number 2.
And this puts Power and Montoya back in play again because everybody's going to regroup.
Top of the screen, you'll see the car come into play. He's just a little high on the line, goes around, gets so lucky because it doesn't really slap the wall too hard. Lucky again that nobody hits him that's coming out of turn 2. And now he tries to straighten the car. He lets his foot off the brake a little bit to get control. The momentum brings the back end around still. Been through that many times. You're just sort of riding along as a passenger. Not a whole lot you can do.
He was very lucky because in the break he had another moment just like that, turning into 3. So maybe he had an issue with his balance before all that started.
And Eddie, you know that sometimes when you're high in the line like that, you could be right, because maybe he had a loose race car before from what we saw. Sometimes when the car's loose like that, you will not turn the steering wheel very quickly, simply because the back end is nervous and you can feel that. This was earlier, and you watch him now with the run down here to turn 3. Watch him above on the camera here.
Outside.
That's 14, Takuma Sato going around the outside, and he just collects it. Eddie, you and I cringe because it's not very often to get away with that at 220 miles an hour.
Good look from our Novo Nordisk onboard camera riding with Kimball today.
And this is the one that just happened.
No.
We're going to go on board now, so let's just ride along and listen. You saw him smart.
Clear. You're clear behind you.
Clear.
Smartly take his hands off the wheel when he went to hit the wall. That's just to avoid some hand and wrist injuries. That's no fun.
Safety crew fired up the 83, put the steering wheel back on, and he has driven back around to the pit lane. So Marco Andretti leads. Ryan Hunter-Reay runs second.
I don't know, man. Cars, I've got an advantage right now that I'm not going to say on the radio, but I'm not sure if me being there is being allowed by the downforce or if the car is just that good. Yeah, 10-4. That makes it tough, doesn't it?
Now, he's talking about the advantage he has on his teammate, Marco. He's not talking about the advantage and the guy he has behind.
Yeah, and
we're looking at two confident guys.
Right, and who's he talking to on the radio?
The father of the guy who's in the car in front.
In front, yes.
Who happens to be an Andretti. And the last time they won, I think they put a man on the moon or something like that. So even I saw that.
So that's the thought of the driver sitting second. How about the thought of the 2008 winner, Scott Dixon, who sits in fourth?
You need more downforce to get up, or we can take some out? I think we're going to have to take some out to be racing, man. We copy that.
So what he's saying is he's just not fast enough.
Update on Dixon from Vince.
Well, and Eddie, you're talking about he's not fast enough, and that's why they've got to take the downforce out, as Dixon just said on the radio, because he knows he's going to have to be faster if he's going to get up there and contend with Ryan Hunter-Reay and Marco Andretti. They'll look to make that change on this stop. Their pit stops, by the way, have been flawless so far. They've really made up time on pit lane.
They really have to be careful as don't take out too much downforce that he can't get up the back of somebody's gearbox in the corner. Marco Andretti had that in the beginning, and he had those blistered rear tires. So you've got to get it just right that you can hang on for that final rush. And the pits are open.
So Andretti Autosport having a fine day with all 5 of its cars in the top 10. Kurt Busch in that last run moving up smartly. Being aided a little bit by the fact that Ed Carpenter and J.R. Hildebrand had just made pit stops before the yellow under this green, and the penalties to Will Power and Juan Pablo Montoya on those last green flag stops.
I would love to know what they've done to Kurt Busch's car change-wise, Scott. If they've given him more downforce to give him some more confidence, what are they doing to give him a run at the end?
Oh, I imagine that's probably the case because he had that mishap the other day, hit the wall. He's the driver now. It's probably looking for security, and now we're going to come up to some more pit stops, Alan.
I'd love to know what Kurt's emotions are, that journey on the day, how nervous he was at the start, at what point in the race he settled in, and now as the tension begins to build toward the finish, what he and all the other drivers are thinking about and feeling about right now. First thing they're thinking about is a set of pit stops. 48 laps to go will not be the last pit stop on the day, but here they come for a crucial one, Doc.
And they have warned Marco Andretti you're going to have to go around where Kurt Busch is going to be pitting, and it's going to be a very busy and very congested pit road. You got to watch your mirrors, use your pedals. Here comes Marco to a stop. Oh, almost gets hit from behind by his teammate. Marco has asked for a half a turn of front wing adjustment. He will wait on fuel. No problem now with tires are on and Marco's away. Jamie.
Julio Castroneves, a front wing change there for the second pit stop in a row. 4 tires, they filled them up with Sunoco fuel. Clean exit out.
Ryan Hunter-Reay moving up a spot. Scott Dixon as well. Getting closer to the finish at Indy.
The 98th running of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC. Brought to you by New Axe Peace Body Washes. Make love, not war.
45 laps to go today at Indianapolis. Next weekend, the Verizon IndyCar Series moves to Belle Isle. And the 2-mile, 14-turn road course there in the waters between mainland Detroit and Canada. Should be a spectacular race. The doubleheader, both here on ABC next Saturday and Sunday, both at 3:30 Eastern Time. Downstairs, Dr. Jerry Punch.
We're with Michael Andretti, and Michael been talking to his driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay, about what's happening strategy-wise. Now he's talking to Ryan Hunter-Reay one more. Michael, I heard you tell your driver, Ryan Hunter-Reay, looks like we may be racing the 25 for the win. How difficult is that for you?
I don't know. I mean, it's now with this yellow, actually, I think it made it about a 3 or 4 or 5 car race now because you got Dixon and Elio in there. But, you know, it's going to be quite interesting.
Hunter-Reay said he knows he has an advantage over the 25. You dare to share that with us?
No, I actually didn't hear him say that he had an advantage over the 25, but he just said he thought he had a good car.
All right, Michael Andretti, God's got to be tough. He's a strategist here, and he's a dad of the guy he's trying to beat.
And he's the team owner, and either way, it's his 2 cars racing for the win at Indianapolis. That's pretty good.
And he's a great team owner. To have that many cars up at the front and to be ahead of Ganassi and Penske, that's quite a good day's work.
Charlie Kimball's car is being taken back to Gasoline Alley. The only caution of the race thus far, wrapping up here, the yellow bringing a couple of other people back into play. That's Ed Carpenter, who's the leader. Remember, he was off sequence on pit stops because of the blistered tire earlier. Stayed out under the yellow, had just pitted under the green. Now he's out in front.
And everybody's going to have to pit at least one more time if they can get 10 laps in. There goes Hunter-Reay.
And they say that the guy that's at the lead on the restart is a sitting duck. Remember, Carpenter did come in before, has some tires on it that have a few more laps on it, but he has run a race lap that's about 1 mile an hour faster than the people that are around him. So does he have a little bit left that he's not showing at this time?
A really important part of the race for Dixon right now. He's got to show that he has the speed to stay with this group. He's done a great job saving fuel. He's been on strategy. Now he's got to keep pace with these cars if he's going to stand a shot at passing them at the end.
So Hunter-Reay, Carpenter, Andretti, Dixon, Castroneves as for the lead. Ed Carpenter goes back through.
Now, in principle, this lead change could happen every lap because we could tell before that the lead car is almost a sitting duck at the end of these long straightaways.
Keeping an eye on that 4th place car, Dixon. Remember the report on the pit stop? They were going to take some downforce out of the car because he needed the speed to keep up with these front 3. Can he keep up and manage to keep the car underneath him?
Taking downforce out of a car, and here he goes again.
Hunter-Reay back to the front.
This leapfrogging could happen every lap from here to the end of the race.
And it's fun.
For
As
us
drivers, we love it.
So Ed Carpenter running second. Let's get an update on his car, Jamie.
Boy, Ed Carpenter last pitted on lap 145. They took a look at the tires. All looked great for him. He asked the team, how are we looking on our downforce? They said, we look good. Let's take a big picture look at this and see how we sit second and how we can lead here. But so far, Ed Carpenter very happy with his car as you see him leapfrogging back and forth with Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Oh, we're looking again, and we're going to get it done again into 1.
Nope.
Maybe not far enough.
Oh.
Now, the drivers are starting to tighten up their game. If you can give somebody a little bit of a problem, make them think twice, you have the mental advantage for those last few laps. What Hunter-Reay did there, he gave him room, but not quite as much as before.
And as you say, that will just get worse
Here
as it
comes
goes on.
Marco Andretti.
And he's too late.
With a peek inside.
Now, these passes we're trying to accomplish going into 3 or into 1 usually start at the opposite end of the track. So you're coming off of 4 now. You need to be set up to get the pass completed going into 1. He's not close enough this time. But if you're passing somebody at one end of the track, it really got originated down the other end.
And another thing we have to say right now is all that talking about saving fuel that we did before, that's all gone out of the window. Right now, they're going as fast as they can, maximum power. Because they all have to stop for fuel one more time. Everybody does.
So a look through this lead group of 10, including the rallying James Hinchcliffe, Townsend Bell with a beautiful drive, and now Kurt Busch up into 9th spot with 39 laps to go. Vince?
It's been a rally for Kurt as well today, Alan. He started 12th, fell back to about 20th, and now, as you said, back into the top 9, the top 10 and 9th place. They have added downforce to his car on a couple of different occasions. As you see the lead change and Carpenter go to the front, Eddie and Scott wondered about how Busch's car has been handled throughout the course of the day. They have added some downforce, but nothing major. Kurt's been very calm on the radio. He's handled it like he's a veteran, not like it's his first time at the Indianapolis 500.
And he's right at the end of that leading group. To be in 9th place for a NASCAR driver, having done just one race, is a great accomplishment.
You see all the swapping around for the lead, and the fact that the race is finished under caution the last 4 straight years. It's got a lot of the drivers wondering what's the right position to be in for the finish. As Hunter-Reay goes back to the number 1 spot, we'll begin to dive into what they're thinking, where to position themselves, and get ready for what's no doubt going to be an exciting run to the checkered flag. That's all coming up from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where sculptor Will Behrens is going to do some more work in a little while.
Big balls. Big balls. Big balls. Big 2-hour premiere.
Holy cow!
Wipeout premieres June 22nd at an early time, 7, 6 Central on ABC.
Scott Dixon talked about taking downforce off the car. Would it be unmanageable? There's the answer. The former winner into the wall hard.
It is such a fine line between having enough downforce and taking it all out for that final run. And I don't know what happened, but I would say it's a good bet that it was just not enough grip to hang in there.
Probably over the edge and almost undrivable. So
now this changes everything for Ed Carpenter.
And there he is already in the middle of the turn of turn 4. The car has already come around from him, so that means one of two things. The car was very loose where the back end wants to come around on you. It had already swapped ends, or something broke on the car and then the car swapped around on him. We'll have to get a report from him.
He was sideways very, very early on. And nobody seemed to have hit any of those big pieces of debris, which is great. That's a very strange spin.
In what way?
But just way so early. Normally that doesn't happen. He started spinning as he turned into turn 4.
On board Helio Castroneves, who was right behind Dixon.
See, just the car starts to come around on him right mid-turn.
Yellow.
He just got really light in the back. That wing, those wing changes are so tricky. It's always a guess as to how much you can take out. And so often, if even a team like Ganassi cannot get it right, it just shows you what a crapshoot that is.
And when they make those wing adjustments, what it does, it either puts downforce, more grip into the car, or takes downforce off of it and makes the car have less grip in the turn. And that's what he called for, Alan, because he felt that he did not have the speed down the straightaway, wanted less wing angle.
For those of us who've not driven cars here in Indianapolis, do you have time to be scared? Do you think about it at all when that car snaps around like that? What does it feel like inside the car?
Those 2 tenths that you saw for him felt like a quarter of an hour. You feel it loose. You feel it go sideways. You try to correct it. You know you have a long way to go, and you just sit there waiting for that bang. And he had a good bang because he went in backwards. The worst ones are the ones where you go in at a 90-degree angle. And let's not forget that safer wall that absorbed a lot of that information, a lot of that energy.
And these cars are so great inside the cockpit because everybody has actually built the seats specific to the driver, as we understand Joseph Newgarden's car over there in the grass area.
Pit lane is open. The leaders are in.
We didn't see what happened to Newgarden. I have no idea what he's doing there.
Follow up on that in a minute.
This is the race right here. This is where it's going to happen in these pit stops.
Oh, so busy coming out, sliding in front of your other competitors.
This was a big, big break for Carpenter.
Got him back on even footing.
Even footing, same fuel as everybody else. Didn't lose any time. He was going to have a very
save your fuel right
long
now. Save
fuel.
your fuel.
Kept going on his run.
So 30 laps to go. The crash from Scott Dixon. Vince is down in his pit.
Mike, Scott had just asked on before the previous stop to take some downforce off the car to make it a little more racy. Any impression from you that contributed to the accident?
Well, actually what happened was we meant to take downforce out of the car, but because everybody came in under yellow, we took out a very small amount. We didn't take out what we would have done on the final stop. So no, it didn't contribute to that. We don't think.
Had he indicated prior to ill handling with the car before the accident?
No, I don't think the car was ill handling at all. You know, it just people need to understand, the viewers need to understand how close to the edge the guys are that in that front pack. You know, you had 4 people that are broken away from everybody else, and they were running fast laps. And I think that's really what's going on. It could have happened to any four of those guys.
Indeed. Thanks for the time, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, and we hope to hear from Scott Dixon in a bit. What happened to Joseph Newgarden? We saw Dixon crash. There's Newgarden's car inside the corner.
Now Joseph Newgarden seems to be coming out in a normal line, and that looks like Martin Plowman's not slowing down for the accident and gets into the back of Joseph Newgarden.
Caution is out. Pit stop's made. 29 laps to go. The former winner is done for the day. So as you see the cleanup continuing from turn 4 where Scott Dixon crashed and Joseph Newgarden's car removed from inside the corner after he was hit and spun around there. Ryan Hunter-Reay from Fort Lauderdale in contention to try and score the win today at Indianapolis.
Each IndyCar track poses a unique set of challenges. That's why Verizon is installing a network of cameras, seamlessly connected by new LTE multicast technology. These high-quality views are live streamed to teams at angles not possible before, so they can adapt their strategies to meet new opportunities. Because when drivers can approach every turn with sharper insights, the thrill of the race never slows down. Verizon and IndyCar, driving technology.
We're Victory Motorcycles. We could use the next 30 seconds to talk about the Victory Freedom 106 V-twin engine and the bold, modern styling. But we know that what you really care about is how it feels to ride. The Victory Cross Country, starting at just $18,999. Victory Motorcycles. Ride one, and you'll own one.
Here's a good one, Seattle. What did Geico say to the Mariner? We could save you a boatload. But what's Seattle's favourite noise? The Puget Sound. All right, never mind. Don't matter. This is a classic. What does an alien seamstress sew with? A space needle. Oh, come off it, Captain.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Wondering what that is? That, my friends, is everything. And with the Quicksilver card from Capital One, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on everything you purchase. Not just everything at the hardware store. Not everything until you hit your cashback limit. Quicksilver can earn you unlimited 1.5% cash back on everything you could possibly imagine. Say it with me, everything. One more time, everything. And with that in mind, what's in your wallet?
Getting ready to go green with 55 miles to go in the Indianapolis 500-mile race. 24 cars on the lead lap, and the intensity is picking up. This restart could be just wild as the drivers scream into turn one, all jockeying for position to be in position for the finish.
But they can't give up anything right now. You cannot give up one corner. You can't give up anything. You have to go as if it's the last lap. This is going to be a wild end of the 500.
Ryan Hunter-Reay from Florida, Ed Carpenter from Indiana, Townsend Bell from California. 1, 2, and 3 coming back up to speed. Hinchcliffe had contact with Carpenter.
Behind you, all behind you here. Yellow's out.
You could tell 3 wide going into 1 was not going to work.
3 wide around here in an IndyCar does not work ever.
I'm sorry. Nah, I'm sorry. It was busy down there.
I suspect they'll have words with each other.
It's 3 wide. Look like.
Yeah.
3 wide. Down the belt. Speed. That is you.
And Hinchcliffe just came from that concussion he had in the inaugural Grand Prix. I don't think anybody's really to blame in that. You have to go for these restarts, and we could see that every time we restart from here to the end of the race.
Well, Ed Carpenter, James Hinchcliffe, and to their outside, Helio Castroneves. Check that, Townsend Bell, and into turn 1 it went wrong.
And amazingly, Townsend Bell made it through.
This is when the spotters will be telling him somebody's high, somebody's low.
Outside, outside, inside, out. Hang on, bud, hang on.
See, now with Ed's spotter, he told him that he was on the outside. Last minute, Hinchcliffe came on the inside. But as a driver, you also feel what's going on. Now we ride along with Helio Castroneves. You can see all the cars fan out. And to the surprise, there goes Hinchcliffe.
Clear.
A little bit bold.
Go high.
And Helio makes the right decision to go to the bottom. But the one who really put the pressure on the 2 inside cars was Townsend Bell, that had just a half a foot advantage to press them down on the lower part of the track, and then they touched.
And on the onboard look we had from Castroneves' car, I believe it was, we actually saw Townsend Bell and Carpenter make the slightest bit of contact before Carpenter and Hinchcliffe bounced off each other.
And that forced Carpenter down just enough to connect with Hinchcliffe. And in one fell swoop, Townsend Bell, how do you say this? Removed 2 competitors that were behind him. It was a great move. Both of them right now are just seething when they're spinning. Look at this little bump, and I'm going to go around the outside.
And that little bump that you feel makes you go towards the inside a bit more, plus a spotter telling him that he's got somebody in the high side, drives into the low side to make that contact with James Hinchcliffe. Jamie, you have more?
Well, Eddie, your assessment was very nice, shall we say, compared to Ed Carpenter's radio. Ed said, who was that? His team said it was Townsend Bell, and they had some words about it. Very frustrated. Obviously, the 2 drivers involved, Hinchcliffe and Ed Carpenter, having words. Very frustrated. Both felt like they had cars to win this race today, and now their days are done with 23 laps to go.
But you really can't blame Townsend Bell for trying that move.
Well, the Californian finds himself up to second right now.
Did he lose it down low?
Nah, they dove in underneath, made it 3 wide, just in, and you had position on them.
Oh, that was 3 wide.
Yep, that was 3 wide. It's a good move.
Well, no caution flags through 149 laps. today, and now a little rash of yellow fever has broken out. The intensity picking up as we get closer to the 500-mile mark at Indianapolis. We're back to the Brickyard after this from your ABC station.
The 98th running of the Indianapolis 500 on ABC. Brought to you by Expedia. Whatever trip you're imagining, all in one place. Expedia. Find yours.
Well, we went for a restart with 25 laps to go here in the Indianapolis 500. It did not go green for long. 2 cars wound up crashed in turn 1. 2 cars racing for second place. James Hinchcliffe and Ed Carpenter's machine. Now we're going to go green with 20 laps to go in the race. And the question becomes, when does the race finish? Because the last 4 years, the race has ended under yellow. With all the drafting we've seen and the slingshot passing, a big topic on the minds of drivers is when to make your move. When do you want to be leading? You're vulnerable if you're leading, but you lose if you're second and the yellow comes out.
And you have to be in the top 5. If you're not in the top 5, you don't have a chance at the restarts. And here we go again. Hunter-Reay got a big jump on everybody.
Hunter-Reay, Townsend Bell, Castroneves, Marco Andretti, Takuma Sato. The top 5, they're 3 wide for second. Castroneves in the middle, Bell low, Andretti outside.
Now we'll see if Townsend Bell can withstand the pressure from Castroneves.
Fanning out, everybody desperate to race up into those top 4 or 5 spots and be there for the final laps. That's Kurt Busch in the silver machine, challenged by Sebastian Bourdais. Juan Pablo Montoya is just ahead of him. Montoya up to 7th after the speeding penalty on pit road earlier.
Now Montoya has had the speed before. Will he be able to actually continue to creep forward to get back in touch with the lead group? And here we go. Castroneves, a bold move. Pardon me, excuse me. Townsend Bell, I need to come through.
Yeah, but I don't see Townsend Bell just laying down and said, go ahead, I'm going to help you win your 4th Indy 500. He's going to attack him again, turning into, maybe not into 3, but he's going to, he's got his own problems with Munoz.
Townsend Bell, that wasn't a block as Munoz went to go to the low side. He looked in his mirror and pushed him down. Now he's on the high side. Munoz, who was qualified 2nd last year, finished 2nd, brave.
Now with all this, and Andretti is leading the Indy 500 with only 18 laps to go.
Spectacular day for Andretti Autosport. They have cars running 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 7th in this field.
And we've learned in the past that Munoz is not somebody that'll just lay back and wait for the race to come to him. He attacks it, and he has enough laps right now to get up front. And here goes Hunter-Reay. He's back in the lead.
Yep, that started back in turn 2. Remember, we have enough fuel on board to make it right to the end right now. There's no conserving fuel. Your fuel trim knob's going to be at race.
Can he put a gap? Any gap on 2nd place? Probably not.
The only gap you got here is the car that's inside of you. And here comes Castroneves, 2nd. This is the strongest he's been since probably halfway through the race. And he is going to hunt down Hunter-Reay.
And just remember, so much of this race being run in the long green flag stretches, save fuel, save fuel. Preach to all of these drivers, forget about it now.
All they got to do now is reach down there and tighten up their seatbelts, because this is going to be one heck of an end of the Indy 500.
So Castroneves for Team Penske, looking for that magical 4th win in the Indianapolis 500 to join that club that includes Rick Mears and A.J. Foyt and Al Unser. Can he do it?
And there's the captain
for the lead.
But it is early. We still have 16 laps to go. You think the captain's a little bit excited?
15 times a winner of the Indianapolis 500, Roger Penske. His driver's out in front.
So were the fans. You could hear it from inside the booth here when he took the lead.
He would be the 4th driver to have won the Indy 500 4 times. And Penske would have 2 drivers in that group. But this race is far from over.
Here comes Hunter-Reay. Big run.
That's not blocking. What he did there, now he's forcing Hunter-Reay to high, and Hunter-Reay goes past him on the outside.
Hunter-Reay has got a great car.
Castroneves has got to be careful because Andretti's got a run on him, and he could make a run at it, turning into 3.
I suspect for Elio to take that low line out of 3 and 4, he probably had a problem with the car, had to get off the gas, knew he had to defend going down the front stretch, hoped he could have got to turn 1 still in the lead. It did not work out.
Marco right now is Hunter-Reay's best buddy. He has to attack Castroneves as much as he can. If he forces Castroneves to look in his rearview mirrors, that will give Hunter-Reay just enough breathing room.
I talked with Marco Andretti here during Media Day on Thursday. He told me about a recurring nightmare that he's had all week long with that scenario we just talked about, the drafting, the caution ending the race early. He said, I don't know where to be, and I keep having this nightmare over and over and over again that I've got a car that can win the race I want to win more than any other, and I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time at the finish.
That nightmare might end, and the Andretti nightmare of not winning Indy might win. And they're approaching traffic, which will be complicated for the first 5.
Oh, talk about a nightmare for Martin Plowman. He knows the position he's in. He looks in the mirror. The spotters who are up on the stands that communicate with the drivers tell him the leaders are coming up behind you, so he's got to find a place to get out of the way.
But it's not just one, it's a group of 9.
Smartly goes to the low side.
And Kurt Busch is in 7th place, right behind Montoya.
Oh,
he gets out of the way. Very good move. All this pressure that Andretti is putting on Castroneves is giving Hunter-Reay just enough room that he doesn't have to defend.
Top
Here comes the run.
Can he make it on the outside? No!
Wow.
Now he's got to regroup. He can do that move because the guy behind him was far enough back that he knew he could chance that and still not get past. Now he's got to get caught back up if he can get the draft off of Elio, who's just up ahead.
And now Munoz, the young Colombian, 22-year-old from Bogota, now living in Miami, begins to lurk, running in 4th. Young driver who last year came to the Speedway for the very first time in an IndyCar, qualified 2nd, finished 2nd, making moves that veterans like Mr. Cheever and Goodyear in the last laps were left wondering how he got away with.
The beauty of being young and brave.
You know what I see? I see Ryan Hunter-Reay going down the straight, Castroneves being able to catch up a little bit, but going through the turns, Hunter-Reay's car just gets through there much easier than Castroneves's does. It looks like it's easier for him to maintain that speed.
Andretti has 3 cars in the top 4.
And while you watch that scoring crawl, look at number 8 there, Ryan Briscoe. Remember, had the problem in the first laps and got a lap down. He's come all the way back into the top 10. What a drive.
So Elio has to get this time correctly if he wants to lead now, or is he trying to understand and size up where he can make the pass? It looks like his car is better in turns 3 and 4. Ryan Hunter-Reay's is better in 1 and 2.
Caution, crash. There was debris in turn 2, now a crash. That's Townsend Bell.
Turn 4 is hungry today. That was 2.
So just as IndyCar officials called for a debris for caution on the racetrack in turn 2, Townsend Bell finds himself with a heavy crash, and the yellow flag is out with just 10 laps to go.
Where's the right place to be? That was a great end to his. That was unfortunate he had that in. That was a great race he was on. Unbelievable pace.
A lot of debris to be picked up out there in the corner. Look at that.
So we're going to see him come into frame from the right-hand side as we did. Something goes on with the car, guys, I think, mid-turn, Eddie, because that thing is gone. Now, we heard debris. Did he run over the debris? Did the tire get flat? We don't know.
At the end of these races, when you have accidents and they try to pick up the debris, it's impossible to get it all in. It takes so very little to cut a tire.
Well, the debris, I think, possibly that they talked about might have been ahead of where he had the accident.
Yep.
Red flag.
They're going to stop the race because there's so much debris to clean up in turn 2, and they want to give these fans a shot at seeing as much of a green flag shootout to the finish as they can. Look at all that debris they've got to pick up.
Because they could not have cleaned it up in 9 laps. I think that's a great decision.
The debris was the right front wing plate off of Sebastian Saavedra's car, we believe. Watch those two.
Oh, Saavedra just gets the left rear tire of Jacques Villeneuve's Dollar General car as they're coming out of the turn, and that's the debris that we were going to go yellow for. As you watch and ride along with Juan Pablo Montoya just up ahead. Oh, that thing snaps. That's almost like what happened to Busch the other day.
Something went wrong.
Back end comes around.
So the field going to be brought down the pit lane and stopped under the red flag to allow the cleanup to continue. And listen to the fans roar with approval at that decision.
What a great decision. I'm so glad. We don't know if it's not going to end in a yellow, but I think it's glad they have a shot.
While they get ready to stop the field here and continue the cleanup, let's back up one caution and check with Vince.
Ed Carpenter had one of the fastest cars all day, but got caught in that sandwich going into turn 1. What was your perspective of what happened?
This guy is not realizing how much time we had left in the race. You know, that wasn't a green, white, checkered restart situation. Just, you know, amateur moves.
Did you feel like it was from the outside or from the inside?
Well, Townsend and I would have been fine. You know, the moment when Hinch decided to make it 3 wide, I think, is when it was more than any of us could handle. Yeah, I mean, you just can't stick it in there. It's just a dumb move.
They put you both in the back of the emergency vehicle on the way to come here. What was the conversation between the two of you on the ride to the medical center?
I'll just say it's a good thing he already had a concussion last week. That was nice.
Ed Carpenter.
The bitter disappointment for Ed Carpenter, who thought he had a chance to win the race. He wants to win more than any other.
He did have a chance. He had a very big chance.
Down to pit lane and Jamie.
Well, nobody knows more about broken hearts and immortality and winning than Roger Penske. Roger, I've been listening to you on the radio and the excitement level every time Helio Castroneves makes a pass. He's sitting second now, less than 10 to go. What position do you want him to be in on that final lap?
Well, it looks like Hunter-Reay's got some real good speed, and of course they're weaving on the straightaway, so we got to be careful to try to get down on the inside. But this restart's going to make a huge difference because everybody will be slower, so I think you're going to see some real action here. But Helio's certainly in a good spot. He's driven a great race, and we'll just see what happens.
Have you already given any thought to being another 4-time winner?
Oh, listen, I just think this young guy has done such a job driving for us. Every year he's won these 3 races, and then, of course, you know, today racing the way he has, it's been tough out there. As you can see, some great cars got taken out. But from my perspective, he's in the right spot to do what he's got to do, and he'll earn his money today, I'm sure.
Helio Castroneves, of course, going for his 4th win here at Indianapolis. Doc?
And Michael Andretti trying to win for the 3rd time here as a car owner. And Michael, first of all, does Ryan Hunter-Reay have what he needs right now in these final laps to hold off Helio and Marco?
We'll find out. You know, last year we got burned on the yellow. I hope we didn't get burned this time. Why didn't he throw the red last year too? So it's a little disappointing because, I think they probably wouldn't have finished and we would have won the race. So it's going to be interesting now. So we have to just see. I know it's great for the fans, so that's the main thing. So hopefully we get a good restart and we can hold Helio, and be nice to get Marco in there. And we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, Michael Andretti, his car sit 1st and 3rd, and I think a lot of confidence here that Ryan Hunter-Reay has what he needs to be able to get the Indy 500 victory.
The field stopped under the red flag to clean up the debris from the crash in turn 2. Then a blistering sprint to the finish. Castroneves trying to become a 4-time winner. Joining A.J. Foyt, Al Unser Sr., And his spotter in turn 3 for today's race, Rick Mears, also a 4-time winner here at Indianapolis. Can Castroneves overtake Hunter-Reay and climb the fence again? Back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Repairs being made to the safer barrier, the steel and foam energy reduction system that is on the inside of the concrete retaining walls around the speedway. One of the great safety innovations in motorsports to help cushion the impact of the blow, and that's left the field under the red flag before these final 8 laps of this one play out. Down to pit road, Dr. Jerry Punch.
And with Becky Hunter-Reay. And Becky, I know you've been around racing your whole life, but how difficult is this for you to sit and watch and know that Ryan has a shot here in a few laps to win the Indy 500?
It's amazing. He was so close last year, and to be up there again this year is just a testament to the driver that he is.
Becky Hunter-Reay, she knows it could happen, gosh, and she hopes it will. Vince?
With James Hinchcliffe was involved in that accident with Ed Carpenter. Ed pointed the finger at you. How did you see it as you entered one?
I mean, I was the last guy on the scene, so I guess that's pretty fair. From where I was, could have been the last restart. It's the last stint for sure. And, you got to go for it. And Ed pulled out. There's a car width there, and I went for it. And Ed gave me the room initially. I honestly don't think Townsend knew we were 3 wide because, again, I haven't seen the replay yet, but from what I saw, Townsend came down into Ed, who came down into me. But like I said, I was the last guy there, so I got to take a portion of the blame for sure. And I feel bad for Ed. I honestly didn't think Townsend could. I knew he had popped out. I honestly didn't think he was going to try and hold the outside because you can't do that here. For as high as Ed was entering, I knew that Townsend would have been way up in the gray. I thought he was just going to lift and it was going to be Ed and I in the corner. But, obviously that's not how it played out. Townsend kept his foot in it and turned into Ed and hit me. Probably my fault, maybe partly Townsend's fault, 100% not Ed's fault, and I feel really bad for him. He had a great month and was doing a great job. And, I'm gutted for the guys because, we weren't great in that sort of middle part of the race, and we fought back, got the car where it needed to be, and feel bad for the Andretti Autosport guys.
Thanks, Hinch. AB?
2 minutes till they fire the engines. 2 laps, then they restart the race. Back live at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you see crew members positioned behind the rear wing of each car. These cars don't carry an onboard starter. The jump starter, if you will, is set and ready to go. In a moment, they're going to fire these engines, send the cars out onto the racetrack. They'll make 2 laps under the caution to get the field formed and re-warmed up and turn them loose for what's going to be 6 laps to the scheduled distance.
No work was able to be done on the car, so the drivers are going back out with exactly what they were with on the racetrack when they were out there competing before. So no modifications to the car. I can assure you that the driver conversation with the crew when they were sitting there waiting for the repairs to be done to the safer barrier was, who's around me, what kind of speeds are they capable of, and we're going to find out here in a shootout to the end very shortly who is going to win the Indy 500.
I think you have to be in the top 5 to have a realistic shot at this. But you don't have to have an accident to get past here. Every time somebody has made a run on another car and they haven't made it, they took their foot off, they'd lose 100 yards.
So as the field goes out, remember again, 2 laps behind the pace car, then they're going to turn them loose and see who wins the Indianapolis 500. Jamie?
Adriana Hanau is the girlfriend of Helio Castroneves. You've been back in the bus, and then all of a sudden you made your way out here. What is this moment like?
No, I'm telling you, I'm going to throw up. I'm ready to throw up. As I was telling him, it's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll hold your hair. Like, this is nerve-wracking.
He said he has so much responsibility. You know what this would mean to win a 4th. Let's go over to Doc.
Marco told me you two had this ongoing debate about where he needs to be in the final laps at Indy. He says he needs to be 2nd, 3rd, or 4th and use the draft. He says you're adamant that he needs to take the lead as soon as possible. What do you say right now? Where does he need to go?
I'll say take the lead as soon as possible, if you can, obviously. But he knows what he's doing, and, he'll give it his all, and he'll take everything out of the car, whatever the car can give him. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed.
The patriarch of the Andretti family, Mario Andretti. Marco said that Mario chastised him for not being more aggressive on the final restart a year ago. That's why you finished 4th, he said. You can't win it back there. As soon as they wave the green flag, you've got to be the leader. We'll see if Marco listens now in a moment.
1 lap to go. The signal from the starter's stand. We'll go racing with 6 laps to go. Will the race go all the way to the scheduled distance under green, or will it end short of that? As in the last few years, and with all the drafting and slingshotting, where do you want to be in the last laps? Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Ultimately, if the race is going to go green to the end, you're going to want to pass on that last lap. Probably going into turn 3. Maybe coming out of turn 4. Could be that exciting. Could be that close.
But you're leading the race right now.
I think Hunter-Reay's in the right place, because all those cars that are behind him are going to try to pass, and there could very easily be another yellow.
Look at the running order across the top of the screen as we get ready to go. 21 cars on the lead lap.
And the interesting thing is, of this new generation car, which we're now in the 3rd year, we've not seen this type of a run to the finish here. So the guy that's in the lead, we know, punches a bigger hole in the air, makes it easier for the guys to pass behind. Everybody's questioning where to be. I don't know where to be. I don't think anybody knows where to be, but we're about ready to find out.
Estimated better than 200,000 here. They're all standing up. Here they come for the restart to see who wins the Indianapolis 500.
Green flag.
Marco Andretti had to hesitate when he couldn't get clear of Castroneves. You heard him with the grip downshift, and he was able to defend his position in line.
And he caught right back up to Castroneves. Hunter-Reay has a very fast car. We'll see if he can hold off going into turn 1. And will he defend the position? Scott?
There's your answer, down low.
Castroneves looking for the race lead.
And here comes Marco. Two teammates in 2nd and 3rd place.
Hunter-Reay challenged by Marco Andretti to turn 3. Oh, that's close.
That's exactly what Castroneves
That's what he wants. Castroneves needs the two of them to fight relentlessly to give him just enough room. Now we have 4 laps to go.
The defensive line down the front stretch, but Hunter-Reay looks to the outside.
We talked about the wind before. The wind's behind you going into turn 3 where we're headed right now. We look backwards to Marco Andretti. He's going to try and make a challenge against these two.
Hunter-Reay almost clips the grass for the lead.
He's pulled it off.
That was a daredevil move.
Andretti peeks to the inside, but the door is shut for 2nd place.
3 to go, 3 to go.
Castroneves sets up high to get a run for Hunter-Reay in the back straight.
And if these drivers tangle, Munoz is 4th, Montoya is 5th, Kurt Busch is 6th.
Hunter-Reay going all the way down to the bottom to try to break the toe. Hello, Castroneves does exactly the same thing again, sets up high.
Marco's car slid there, not sure he has what he needs to get to the front.
Big run.
On the outside.
Clear.
What a pass.
Castroneves the leader. They'll come to the white flag next time. Here comes Andretti. Here comes Hunter-Reay.
Hunter-Reay got him into 3 the last time.
Defensive line by Castroneves.
He's going to have to do it this time.
Here they come to the white flag. We'll enter the final lap of the Indianapolis 500. Ryan Hunter-Reay to the outside of Elio Castroneves for the race lead. that kind of drafting, warm up the photo finish cameras. Half a lap to go. Ryan Hunter-Reay leads. Elio Castroneves is second. Can Castroneves close on him? He's a couple of car lengths back. One last corner to go. Checkered flag is in the air. Here comes Castroneves. He won't get there. Florida's Ryan Hunter-Reay wins the Indianapolis 500.
Captain America pulled it off.
Awesome, man, awesome.
That looks like a fun party to be in the middle of, Jamie.
Becky Gordon just saying, did this really happen? What does this mean to you and your family? Of course, Robbie Gordon's sister married to Hunter-Reay. What does this mean?
Oh my God, when lap 199 came and I was like, no, you just gotta get this. He just won the Indy 500. I can't, like, he deserves it so much and we're just so proud of him and happy for him, and I can't wait to get my little guy down there and drink some milk.
Becky, he had one of the most aggressive moves at the race, ducked down low, almost clipped the grass. What was going through your mind?
I knew he was going to do whatever it took to win this one, and we just won 500.
Gonna go drink milk?
I gotta go down there.
She's going to drink the milk and celebrate, Alan.
What a race, what a finish.
Oh my God, Ryan, that is awesome. I can't believe that. I'm so happy for you. Got people crying down here. This is unbelievable. Great job today, man.
He started last year's restart first and got shuffled back to third.
This year he's going to go kiss the bricks, drink the milk, and have his likeness inscribed on the Borg Warner trophy.
I admire everybody that wins this race, but it is great to see an American driver having just won the Indy 500.
Elio Castroneves and the contrast in emotions. To borrow the old Wide World of Sports line, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, the human drama.
They both drove their heart out.
Elio said the other day that he almost wanted to win this more for Rick Mears because he's been his mentor over all these years. As we know, Rick Mears has won this 4 times. He said he thought it would mean just as much for Rick to win his 4th as it would for himself. Did not happen today.
So much tradition here in Victory Lane, the victory wreath, the Firestone hat, and now the ceremonial swig of milk and the milk bath for his team here in Victory Lane. Here is the 500 Festival Princess to give him the congratulatory kiss. You did it, my friend. You are an Indy 500 champion. Congratulations. What's this like?
It's a dream come true, man. I can't even believe it. I don't even know. It hasn't even sunk in yet, but this is just the most fantastic team. I mean, the support they've given me to give me this race car 2 years in a row to have a shot at winning the greatest race in the world. A dream has come true today, and I'm a proud American boy, that's for sure.
Take us through those final laps. The people here on their feet screaming. Got to believe the millions at home watching were screaming. Tell us about holding off and passing and repassing Elio Castroneves.
There was no practice for it. We never really ran those lines at all the whole month, and that was all new. Everything everybody was doing at the end was all new, and I didn't know if we had what it took, but I did my absolute best, and I've got the best team behind me. Nobody can stand on their own without a good team behind them, and these guys did it. And this is number 28 DHL Honda's in Victory Lane in Indy 500, and I don't even know what to think.
Becky said last night that you were very confident that this might be your day, in spite of starting back at 19th. What made you think, as he reached over, there's his young son riding, what made you think, even last night, that this was going to be your day?
I knew we had a good race car. We didn't qualify well. We started 19th, but we ran to the front, and I was just biding my time, making the right adjustments on the stops. I'm so excited right now, I can't even think. And this is just a dream come true. We did everything right today, and that's what it takes to win this race. I've watched this race since I was in diapers, sitting on the floor in front of the TV. My son did it today. He watched me here. I'm thrilled. This is American history, this race. This is American tradition. Our auto industry is based on it, and this is as big as a championship for me.
When you look back years from now on what you've accomplished today, they say this is a race that will change your life forever. What do you think you will cherish most about winning the Indianapolis 500?
Just being here, having my family here with me, doing it with this bunch. This is my 5th year in Andretti Autosport, doing it with these guys. I have such a great support team here. They really are behind me every step of the way, and it was a fantastic fight to the finish. You know what? It went green the whole way, and I love that, because I wouldn't have wanted to win under yellow. I'll win it any way I can, don't get me wrong, but winning it under green like that, just a fantastic finish with Elio. We all raced each other clean, but really hard. I think that was some fantastic racing. I hope the fans loved it, because I was on the edge of my seat, that's for sure.
Congratulations again to Ryan Hunter-Reay, a 33-year-old out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And there's his buddy Graham Rahal coming in. Michael Andretti over here, the car owner. Oh, my gosh. What another celebration for Michael. His 3rd win in the Indy 500 as a car owner. Alan?
And for Michael, the 5 cars he had entered in the race, 1 crashed racing for the lead with 25 laps to go. The other 4 finished in the top 6 spots. 1 driven into victory lane by Ryan Hunter-Reay. And what a scramble those final 6 laps were between Hunter-Reay, Elio Castroneves, and Marco Andretti.
And this is all flat-out driving. You're not taking your foot off the throttle whatsoever. Running speeds of 223, 224, of which they were doing. You look in the mirror, you see the competitor coming up on the high side. You don't take your foot off it. You wonder if he'll make it or not. He gets it clean. And there we go.
The run to the checkered flag. Castroneves just too far back to get there by the time he reached the yard of bricks. That said, the 2nd closest finish in 500 history. Right there.
Hunter-Reay was unstoppable.
6 100ths of a second between Ryan Hunter-Reay and Elio Castroneves. Well, one half of the duo that raced to the checkers has been heard from. Let's check with Rick on the other.
Elio Castroneves, you came so close. Let's talk about those last couple laps.
Well, certainly they stopped, kind of like break the rhythm, but I tell you what, first of all, congrats Andretti Green and Ryan Hunter-Reay. I mean, they did an outstanding job, and I want to thank Roger and my team, the Shell Pennzoil. I think the colors were so close to continue the tradition. But I'm so proud of the Shell Pennzoil boys. Obviously, AAA, Hitachi guys, Verizon. I want to thank everyone because it was close. It's a shame, so close, but you know, today it's Ryan Hunter-Reay's day.
Let's talk about that moment when you came into the pits after the race was over and you just had to sit and think about it. What was going through your mind?
Well, obviously, you know, the blood is still flowing. You want to make sure that when you say something, you say the right things. And right now, certainly, it doesn't take it away the performance that we had. It's a shame. I want to give this to Roger so bad. I was pushing extremely loud. It was a great fight. I tell you what, guys, it was a great TV. I was having a great time. You know, it's unfortunately second is it's good when second sucks, if you know what I mean.
Helio Castroneves smiling, but he is truly hurting inside.
Finishing second today, Castroneves did to Ryan Hunter-Reay, who together with his wife Becky formed a charity Racing for Cancer to help kids who are suffering. Right now he's in victory lane at Indianapolis helping his son to a little taste of milk.